I call today's meeting to order. If we can please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Director Kelly will lead us.
Put your hand over your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Karen, can you please take the roll?
Director Magner? Not quite yet. Okay. Director Kelly?
Here.
Director Fernandez?
Here.
Director Schlangen? Chair Dransfeld.
Here. Are there any amendments to the agenda? Okay, we'll go into presentations. Recreation?
Good evening, Chair Dransfeld and Board of Directors. I am here today to present district highlights and kind of what's been going on as of May of this year until now. So just some end of summer highlights for you. Programs and classes. We had 12 camps. So that included our Camp Fantastic as well as other class instructor camps that we had. 6 health and wellness classes. 3 preschool sessions, 35 youth sport classes, 11 aquatic sessions. For our events and activities, we had 10 special events, 14 hikes, 17 bingo events, 15 pool parties, 2 senior dances, and 67 teams participate in sports. So again, just a table to kind of present that for you. So again, we had 10 special events, 12 camps, 6 health and wellness classes, 3 TOTS classes, 14 hikes, 35 youth sports programs, so those are non-CSO groups, 17 bingo events, 11 aquatics sessions, pool parties, we had 15, and 67 adult league sports, and 2 senior dances. So food share, we continue to serve about 150 to 175 families a week. We are working on a walk-up service. We actually have a training scheduled tomorrow with Food Share to kind of go over what that would look like. And we still have our senior produce box program, and that is the first Wednesday of every month from 9 to 11, and that is ran by Food Share. Our numbers are a little down for the families that we are serving, but that is due to the cutbacks in USDA goods that are being provided to Ventura County, and so that provides us with less food that we are able to get when we go shopping weekly. Camp Fantastic, we had about 75 to 80 campers each week. So we focused a lot on recreation this year. So you can see a lot of rec games out there being played. Some of the new classes we had were archery. We had a love bug obedience dog class. That's out at Freedom. Dance exercise replaced our jazzercise class. She retired, and our wall yoga, and that is senior focused. Aquatics and sports, we had 824 aquatics participants this summer, 897 adult sports participants. Some of the adult sports we offered were basketball, kickball, and softball. Seniors in motion, so we have table tennis photoed here at Freedom Center. They're out there Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 12 to 4, so they've extended their use by an hour. Senior softball is out at Mission Oaks, and due to the amount of seniors that are involved now, they have added additional days as well. So they practice every Monday and Friday from 9 to 12, and they have games every other Tuesday from 9 to 12. So they're up to about 3 teams now of 25 seniors. Senior dances, we had our senior prom May 9th, and then our Star Spangled Dance was July 11th. Music was provided by Seniors of Note, and our sponsorship was Alignment Health, and they provided a monetary sponsorship so we could purchase food for our seniors. Outdoor education, we had 5 hikes up at Cam Grove Park, 5 hikes at Mission Oaks, 3 field trips offered to PVSD and Charter Oaks School, and then 2 junior ranger hikes. Our summer concert series. So our bands this year included Gold Rush, Blue Breeze Band, Bee Gees Fever, and Heart of Rock and Roll. And we just want to say thank you to our summer partners and sponsors. It wouldn't be possible without them. So we had City of Camarillo, Dutton, State Farm, Ryan Charlin, Ventura County Credit Union, Music Freaks, and the Foundation for Pleasant Valley Rec and Parks provided a craft at our concerts as well. So those are some of the photos from this summer. We had a lot of fun capturing all these moments with all of our partners and participants. End of summer camp out. We just want to say thank you to our partner Music Freaks. Some of the highlights, we had our Pleasant Valley Raceway out, arts and craft area. We had 58 campsites this year, and we featured Air Bud the movie as well as s'mores. Some of our district highlights for our parks projects, we have Locker Park Basketball Court. The resurfacing was just completed. There's a photo on there, top left. New equipment purchase, we had a dump trailer and a truck that was delivered last week. And in progress and upcoming Springville tennis courts and pickleball courts will be worked on September 29th through October 10th. Springville parking lot, the north lot, October 7th through the 9th, and Charter Oak Windrow tree maintenance will occur October 6th through October 31st. Some of our upcoming events, because they just keep coming. Trailer Treat is October 18th. Spooky Swim is October 24th. Halloween is October 25th. And Halloween in the Park and our Trunk or Treat this year will be on October 29th, so that'll be on a Wednesday. And then some further upcoming events are our Letters to Santa campaign, which begins November 17th, our Cookies with the Clauses, December 6th, Camarillo Community Band, December 7th, and Camarillo Christmas Parade, December 13th. Thank you.
I just have a quick.
Thank you so much. Yes, go ahead, Director Kelly.
Did I miss or did you not have any pictures of archery?
I do not have any photos of archery, but I can definitely get them emailed over to you by tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Any other? Oh, go ahead, Director Stone.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to thank you and staff for all the activities. You had a plethora of activities this summer, and you definitely kept the citizens here of Camarillo active throughout that whole time. But I know it takes a lot of work to put on all of these activities, so I just personally wanted to thank you and staff for all that you guys did. And I'm getting excited and looking forward to the upcoming events, and I know you guys will do a great job there as well.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Director Fernandez?
Yeah, thank you. Likewise. Do these numbers, is this growth compared to last year, or is it about the same? Or do you guys try to keep it flat?
Overall, for our programming this year, we had an exponential amount of growth as far as the amount of programs that we offered in each category. For some of our events, some of the numbers did go down, but we did have other events that were going on in Camarillo at the same time. So we are looking at that moving forward and just being mindful and diligent and as far as marketing and picking the appropriate date.
Cool. And if we do this again next year, I think it'd be awesome to see like the year-over-year numbers on the sites.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I went to several of the events. I try to go to as many as possible, but as you can tell, there are a lot. And October, there are so many events, and it's a lot of fun. And if you haven't been to them, definitely encourage folks to come out. I mean, Halloween alone just has such a special place. Like, it's just utter joy seeing these dogs run around in costumes. It's great. A great morale boost. But yes, thank you so much for everything, and best of luck with the many upcoming events.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And then Justin, I believe you have some announcements or introductions.
I do. So, a couple months ago, we had unfortunate departures of Kayleen and Macy have left the district. And unfortunate to report that Jennifer will be leaving the district as well this week. And so we have filled for Jennifer's position and for Macy's position. Tonight we have Martin Kobos, if you could stand up. So he comes with a host of experience from other government agencies, most recently down in Orange County, but he was also here in Ventura County during COVID and did some of the work with the dashboards, working with the healthcare agency at the time. So we're happy to have him with the district. And then Ramiro Saldane is going to be replacing Macy. He's former water polo coach player, so he's not a stranger to aquatics and pool, but he also comes with some experience maintaining and running facilities as well. So he's also a pleasure to have him with the district. So you'll be seeing them here or there if you're out at the pool in the district office, and as appropriate here at board meetings in the future. So we're happy to have them and sad to see Jennifer go.
Yes. Thank you so much. Directors, did you have any questions or comments? Yeah, go ahead, Director Schling.
Romeo, or is it Romeo? Ramiro, sorry. And Martin, welcome very, very much to it. I know you're going to do a great job, but you've got big shoes to fill. Jennifer was a great employee and did a lot of great work for us. And so we're sad to see you go, Jennifer, but wish you all the best in your future endeavors. And again, welcome and looking forward to working with the both of you as well.
Great.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much and welcome. We'll go on to public comments. In accordance with Government Code Section 54954.3, the board reserves the right to hear from the public. If you would like to make comments about a matter within the board's subject matter jurisdiction, but not specifically on this agenda, in accordance with California law, the board will listen, note the comments, and may bring the comments back up at a later date as an agendized item for discussion. Speakers will be allowed 3 minutes to address the board. I have one comment card. If there's anyone else that would like to give comment, please fill out a card and we will get to you. So Susan Voll, if you can please come up, and you'll have 3 minutes to address the board.
Thank you. My name is Susan Voll, and I live here in the city of Camarillo. I've lived here for 59 to 60 years, and it's been several months since I spoke before the board. I spoke to you last regarding the restroom at the senior center, and I wanted to tell you how much it is appreciated, the remodel. I have in the group that I helped to lead a lady who said she's low vision, and she said she can now see, she's not afraid to go in there. So it is very much appreciated that you did do the work that you did. I know it was costly, time consuming, and there had to be some renovations and things done, so I know it was a process that it went through, and it is very much appreciated. There was one comment, though, that was, well, more than one comment that was brought up to me, and so I thought I'd bring it to the board because I didn't want too much time to go by. And that is that when they put the bars in the bathroom, the one is like what the way the ADA compliant would have it, and in the other one, the contractor put the bar behind the toilet. So if you were to use it, you would have to reach behind, arch your back to stand up, and it should be on the sides. So some of the group members that I've spoken with, as well as some from some of the other classes that someone else spoke to, have asked if that can be addressed, because you spent so much money, I'm sure, to have this done and done properly, and the contractor should have done that correctly. So I wanted to bring it to your attention before too much time went by, because I know the longer things go, the harder it is to get things fixed. But it is very much appreciated. There was one lady, she was so happy because she was the one that got stuck and I had to help her out the bathroom. So anyways, I just want to say thank you for all your hard work. It is very much appreciated. We're excited about the multi-generational building that's being worked on and the progress and all the programs that you provide. And so we just want to say thank you for all your hard work. So.
Thank you so much, Susan. Really appreciate your comments.
I just have a
Yeah,
question.
go ahead, Director Kelly.
Mary, this is not the first time I've heard this. I've heard this comment before. I don't know how long ago. It wasn't that long ago. Whatever happened with that?
The handrails that were placed inside the ADA stall are compliant. However, the one that was put in the non-ADA stall was just added as a, additional feature. It's not required to even have them in that stall.
I see.
Yeah, but it would be difficult for anyone to use it because you would have to reach behind you. Even a male, standing up, it's still, they'd be, So from a nursing standpoint, I used to be a nurse. I could tell you it's not going to get used. It wasn't put in the proper place.
Got it.
Yeah. So
Thank you. Yeah, we'll be in touch to see how perhaps we can mitigate it. I understand that it's not necessarily required as an ADA, but it is something where hopefully we can provide some sort of solution. So thank you for your comments and coming forward and speaking.
All right, thank you.
One more. Matt, how much of a deal is it to change that?
I'd have to look at it. I mean, I think it's anchored into tile right now. So when
see.
we remove it, we'd have to patch the holes and then.
And you'd have some holes in the tile.
Yeah,
and so-
and I'd have to check the clearance on the sides to make sure that we still have the acceptable clearance, because it was a tight fit to get everything in there the way it was, even with pushing that wall out, so.
Yeah, they probably put it there.
We'll check, we'll look into it.
Great. Thank you. On to consent agenda. Are there any matters that, or any items that the members would like to pull? I was just going to say, I do have one item that I wanted to pull, but David did, okay. I just wanted to pull item G for consideration and approval of regular Board of Director meeting dates for 2026. And I was specifically looking at the date for the first board goal setting workshop of January 24th. My request would be if we could push that back a week, if that's fitting for staff, and if we need to bring this for the future agenda item, that's understandable to Chuck's schedules.
It shouldn't be a problem.
Okay. Directors, I know that this is a last minute request. I don't know if you have any conflicts with that date.
I don't know,
Okay.
but I'm pretty flexible.
Okay, we'll go ahead and look at it. And Mary, would we bring this back or just move forward with the amendment?
You could move forward with the amendment.
Okay. I can get a motion to move as amended and to pass the rest of the consent calendar as it stands.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with item G taken out for further discussion.
Did you want further discussion or just amended to the 31st?
Oh, are I'm fine with the 31st
Of January?
of January, yeah.
It's a Saturday. I mean,
It's a
we can
Saturday.
do it either way. I'm just making sure
Yeah.
we understand the emotion.
Yeah.
And if you want us to bring it back next meeting, we can do that as well.
So that gives members a chance to,
That's fine.
we'll go ahead and bring it back just to
Okay.
make sure it works with everyone's schedules.
So, yeah, then I guess I'll make a motion to accept the, or approve the consent agenda items A through F.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Karen, can you take the roll call?
Director Schlangen,
Aye.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
Director Magner? No. Director Kelly?
Aye.
Director Dransfeld?
Aye.
Director Kelly, excuse me.
Aye.
Thank you. And Chair Dransfeld.
Aye.
Thank you.
And that passes. And so we will discuss item G, or consent item G at the next meeting. For new items, consideration and direction regarding the potential use of district property at Charter Oak Park for City of Camarillo water pump station.
Okay, that's me. All right, so just a little bit of background. There's water supply challenges in northern part of Camarillo. So the zones north of Las Posas Road currently rely 100% on imported water from Callegas Municipal Water District. So the city's existing system cannot pump water from its own wells or desalter, and is facing limited supply, flexibility, and higher water costs. So when they have to import it, that means everybody's costs go up. So the blue line that you see up there is where the desalter is at in this corner, and then goes down to the other corner, which is where Charter Oaks Park is. So up on your right side of the screen, that's where their desalter is. When you follow that down Las Posas and then up, that's where Charter Oak Park is, just for a reference point. So city plans to increase local water supply, and by doing that, construct 2 new pump stations. So as part of that, pump station would deliver water from city's wells or the desalter. And again, what you will see is where kind of that grayed out area is where the water supply, where people are needing the water supply. So the project will reduce the reliance on the imported water. And if you have questions, I do have Dave Klotzel from the City of Camarillo here to answer the technical questions. So the proposed pump station, which is pump station number 1, serves 420 pressure zone, preliminary sited at Charter Oak. Pump station 2 is further down west on Las Posas. The reason for Charter Oak Park selection is there's available space, away from homes, accessible via Amber Drive. The city is open to alternative park locations that minimize impact. So just to give you an idea of where the pump station, so there's 2 different photos on here. So you can see the one to the left, which is the area kind of where the homes are at. On that little speck up top is where Charter Oak is, or where the pump station. The larger one on the right kind of shows you where the proposed location is. So if you look at that, and again, if the pointer doesn't really want to work on that, is that what I'm seeing? So up top is Amber. You'll see there's looks like a road, and that road is actually Charter Oak, which is the walking path. You'll see the building that they're proposing, where that sits. So it sits back a little bit. Oh, that is a much better laser. That helps. So this is where the building would sit. So it's back away from the street. It would be on the basketball court or a portion of that. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But this is kind of where the wind row is that we've been talking about. So part of this consideration is offers available space and easy access from Amber Drive. And part of that was looking at is you don't have to drive through the park. So if there's an issue with a pump, they're not driving through the park and disturbing other parts of the park, having to worry about trucks and other things that are there. The preliminary layout includes a concrete block structure, 2 spaces, should the district decide if they want 2 public restrooms or 2 public stalls in there. The conceptual layout and elevation drawings, which are right here. Again, these are preliminary and conceptual only. So you can kind of see what the building would look like. You can see, again, a little bit going back and forth between 2. So you can kind of see here's where the pump station is. If there were bathrooms, if the board so chose, the bathrooms would be on this side, which are closer to where the amenities are. So as part of this, the next steps for consideration is, does the board approve proceeding with the project? If that's the case, then we need to have a discussion of where that location and where the board would like to have that location in the park. decide whether the district would want restrooms included as part of the project, plan for any replacement and any impacted park amenities, and then also have a discussion regarding design considerations, building materials, and such, and then enter into an agreement. So we are not entering into an agreement tonight. Literally tonight is discuss, are we willing to have and consider, is the board willing to have and consider looking at this project and moving this project forward at that specific park? So there's no fiscal impact at this time. Again, part of this is it's recommended the board of directors receive the City of Camarillo's request and provide direction to staff. A couple just notes as we're having this discussion for just park information. So that park receives annually about 19,000 visitors over the last 12 months, which is typical for that park. It may ebb and flow a little bit, but we receive about 19,000 visitors. On average, people are there from anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes on those visits. Typically, it's most of the people that are in the neighborhood doing walks and such. The high use times, as you can probably imagine, is usually between 8 and 9 in the morning, and then typically from 3 to 7 p.m. And then again, most of it is on Saturdays and Sundays. There has been no rentals, so I know that that's also a consideration to look at. We had some fairly regular rentals in a couple of years ago, but we have not really had any rentals on a consistent basis at that park for at least the last year. So just some added information for you as you're looking at information and potentially who uses it, what that looks like. I do not have a good idea. I know that's typically a question, how the neighbors feel on having bathrooms there or not. I know that typically bathrooms mean people stay longer, which can be both good and bad. I know that there's no extra parking up there. So typically when you add bathrooms, I do know that we have quite a bit of the older population that does walk that park, and then you typically have some of the mom groups that will go from playground to playground. So just some other information as it relates specifically to that park as you're looking at some of this information. But again, I do have Dave Klotzel here from the City of Camarillo on the public works side. So if you have questions for him, if that would be helpful, or for Dave to go through if I've missed something, may be helpful. But Dave is sitting out there if you do have questions.
One question I have, Mary, is, and maybe Justin, if the decrease in rentals, if there's a certain pattern or potential reason as to why rentals went down?
Really, we had one group, and it was the same person that rented for almost 2 or 3 years and rented fairly consistently, and it was a person that was doing baseball and was doing private lessons up there. But other than that, typically we have not seen rentals other than that at this park.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Director Kelly?
Yeah, I probably do. It looks like it takes up 30 by, all of these things are segmented. So just how big is this unit going to be with the walkways around it and so forth?
I can help answer that. And first of all, thank you to the board for considering this item, chair and board members. I appreciate the opportunity and to hopefully move this very important project forward for the city. Right, and what we have is a very preliminary layout of the size that'll be needed. I think essentially about 20 feet by 40 feet is the actual building size, and then another 10 to 20 feet on either side for drive approach and be able to access that. So, total land area of use there. Really, and I was actually comparing it to some of the other facilities that the district has. Like a sand volleyball court at Locker Park that's about the total size, maybe even a little bit smaller than that. That's needed for the entire project. And then the building itself, like I said, it's essentially a large garage size.
The proposed bathrooms, if we want them, I have one diagram here that has like 4 stalls. But I've read in the report that it's 2. I'm not good at looking at these
Okay,
plans.
yeah, the diagram that's up there now is the total building layout with the smaller spaces there at the bottom of the diagram would be the proposed space for restrooms. Again, this is as we were developing the concept, and if restrooms would be an amenity that the district's interested in, we would include that in the design and with utility, water, and sewer hookups. So it'd be the 2 stalls it'd be the south side of the building.
How far, again, the pictures that I have in my report are not very good. I know the area well, it's in my district, but I'm not quite sure, based on what I have, where things are. Better picture. Basketball court. This is the basketball court. So is it going to be right on top of the basketball court?
That's the initial location that we've shown it at. And again, that's, as was mentioned, we're flexible with alternate locations within the park. We kind of ended up here with keeping it as close to Amber as possible and utilizing that existing access driveway off of Amber. And also avoiding trees now, depending on, what the status is with the trees in that area. If it's so desired to place it somewhere that would remove some trees, if that's actually a desire of the district, we could accommodate that also. We're flexible with the actual location. The main intent was to, have as good of access, as easy access as possible, and as far away from homes as possible. We looked at the park where it starts down at Las Posas, actually, right there. Our water line's right in Las Posas. That would be the easiest point of connection for the water system itself, but it's too small, it's too close to homes. We know that that's a non-starter, so looking at, we're totally open to other locations within the park area.
I see cars parked on Amber. Is Amber open for parking at all times?
Yes.
So cars could pull up there and park and would only be a few feet away from the restrooms, correct?
Yeah, it's probably going to be 40 or 50 feet from Amber. And again, as shown here, that exact location is something we can.
Well, there's really not much room to move it around, because to move it, for instance, let me tell you, this is the area where the kids play soccer and football and stuff and so forth. If we move this over to here, you're going to take a big chunk out of a cleared area, which we have very little of in the city. So that would mean that it would have to be, some trees would have to be taken out if we were to move it, and that would put it very close to Amber, which might invite a whole bunch of other problems. Right. So there's going to be some work that needs to be done, and we're going to have to vet this with the people that live in the area, in my opinion.
I think one of the things, because it will be on top of the basketball court as well, that's definitely a concern, and being able to find another location for the basketball court to go if this is the ideal spot. So being able to work through that amenity. Director Schlangen, Director Fernandez, did you have any comments?
I guess my recommendation is right now is to at least move forward with the city. As you can tell from individuals up here and concerns that I have with different things being moved around, we would still have items to discuss and work out. But at least the concept, I'm good enough moving forward with the city, working with you guys to assist in putting this pump in.
I have another question. What have we been? We don't have these pump stations now. What have we been doing?
Correct. Right now, it's a direct connection from the imported water. Cayugas Municipal Water District is the regional wholesaler of State Water Project that comes from Northern California. And they have I think it's 39-inch pipeline that runs down Las Posas. The city has numerous turnouts, I believe 8 total throughout the city, and 2 of them specifically, and one for this Charter Oak area ties in right there at Charter Oak. And so it's a high pressure connection that serves that area. That just because of the way the plumbing is set up on our existing water system, those elevations are too high to be served from our reservoirs to maintain adequate pressure. So we've always used exclusively high pressure imported water to those to this zone, and then that other one further to the west.
So then part of the purpose is to get water from somewhere else, and you need the pump stations in order to do that.
Correct. Yep. The pump stations will tie into our existing pipeline in Las Posas that comes from our wells, and then a majority of our well water is treated by our new desalter, our water treatment facility. So yeah, essentially increasing the amount of local water supply that comes from our wells to serve our customers, and at a much reduced cost.
Has a study been done to make sure that the new source of water will not create the same situation where you don't have enough pressure to get it up there?
Yes, and that's the whole purpose of these pumps. And our engineer has designed this conceptual layout and the piping necessary. And it's just a matter of sizing the pumps and the pipes adequately enough to pump the water at the pressures that are needed.
And if one of the pump stations goes down, will everybody be without water?
No, the pump station itself has backup pumps and redundancy built in, and we'll still maintain that connection to Cayugas to have that higher pressure imported water available when needed.
How long does it take to get that turned back on?
A matter of minutes, as quickly as staff can get out there.
Okay, so it's just automatic.
Yes, right.
One of the things I was going to ask about is also cost savings by implementing this to the community and whatnot.
Correct, yeah. Real rough order of magnitude on looking at what we pay the higher cost for imported water versus the lower cost. Essentially, we'll end looking at saving $600,000 to $700,000 a year by having this pump station use our local groundwater instead of purchasing that water. So,
has there been pushback on this?
No, it's this has long been planned in the city. It's in our 5-year capital improvement program for numerous years. And a major goal of the city council is to reduce the reliance on the imported water. That actually there's only one connection that comes through the tunnel over at Simi Valley by the railroad tracks that delivers imported water from Northern California into Ventura County. So there's always constant efforts on looking at increasing local water supply reliability and reducing the reliance on imported water.
How much do you expect to save?
That's about $600,000 to $700,000 a year by pumping our own water instead of using the imported water.
In the overall scheme of things, that's not that much, is it?
It adds up, and it's a direct savings to the ratepayers. If we continue to pay the higher cost of imported water,
So you expect the rates of the citizenry to go down in that area, or at least not go up?
That you hit the nail on the head. With that amount of savings, we'd expect the rates not to go up as much as they would otherwise have to. With the just general cost of increase of living and everything, rates are not going to be coming down. We have to keep pace with inflation and the cost of doing business. But this that's what our desalter is achieving. We're now pumping and treating that otherwise unusable brackish groundwater. If we didn't have that, we just implemented 4 years of rate increases. They would have had to have been a lot higher had we not have the desalter operational at this time.
Thinking of
My recommendation is we hold off until we can get some kind of input from the community that lives in that area.
I was going to ask David, have you gotten feedback? Has the city gotten any feedback from the neighbors there about this project?
We have not reached out directly. We wanted to take this step in initial meetings with district staff, and then, of course, here tonight to get, the board's direction and input. But that's absolutely an item that we can incorporate into the project and gather information and bring that back.
Yeah, it's a significant change. So just always wanting to make sure that the community has their input for that. Another thing, thinking about the water pressure levels, is with the mountain fire, how in an emergency, especially in the northern part of Las Posas, or above Las Posas, how that's impacted, if this helps mitigate some of those needs, or...
It definitely, gives another redundant supply. I mean, this will be our primary supply, but then, like I said, that other connection to the Cayugas high-pressure water line will, and that's one of the reasons we had no shortage of water during the mountain fire with our own local supplies and the Cayugas water that was able to be provided to our customers. So this does give a level of redundancy. And then also with backup power, generator power, to make sure we're always able to deliver the water.
Sure, great, thank you.
I would, I guess, challenge and try to move it west, not take up the basketball court, if possible. I know that you mentioned some trees, and just looking at Google Maps here about what trees exist, like obviously move it west without taking down too many trees, if possible. Community input, I think, is important. I don't know how loud these are. Are they loud? Are they generators running?
No,
or-
you really wouldn't be able to hear anything with the block wall and the sound attenuation that's built into the pumps and yeah, you would not be you'd be able to hear anything.
Got it. And then, Mary, what does the park and rec, what do we get for this? What's our, obviously bathrooms at the park, adding amenities to the park, but is there a revenue stream from this? Land loan, land lease, whatever you want to call it?
I think a lot of that depends on what we're looking for and what the board wants to see out of this. So again, if we don't want bathrooms, then the question is what do we want? If we need to leave it there, then as part of the recommendation would be to go back and negotiate with the city to make sure that we don't lose amenities, because obviously we don't have amenities to lose, which has been part of the discussion. So I think part of this is the direction on what we want to do. We've had some other wells with Camarillo. I know they can't do the same deal that we did with Camarillo, and that the original one is we got water in exchange for the well site. But we can't even get that with Camarillo anymore due to Prop 218. So then it becomes, do we want to lease? Are we looking for amenities? What are we trying to do? And I think that's part of the reason the city was talking about bathrooms, is that's an amenity that would cost, but if the community wants it, it's an added benefit. If the community doesn't want it, then it's not an added benefit, which is why having this conversation.
Do you have any preliminary numbers on what this is going to cost to do this?
Yeah, I'd have to check with my other staff.
Real preliminary, around $2 million for each pump station.
2 million each, so 4 million total? Yeah, right. So real rough, about $2 million for complete design and then construction.
Can you just remind us what we're approving right now, Mary?
So I think the first question is do you want to move forward with working with the city to find a space on that site? And if that's the agreement or that's what we want to do, then we'd come back to the board with an agreement, as well as whether, want bathrooms. That gives us time to talk to the community to see if they want bathrooms. That gives us time to look and negotiate, because if they don't want bathrooms, then that's out of the picture. Then what else is in the picture? If we need to leave it here, then the question comes back of where do we move the basketball court? Is that the right amenities? So we can have those further questions come back. I think their first today was just to find out if we're willing to put a pump station at that site.
I don't think those questions can be answered. Why don't we put it off for a month or two and do the work, the due diligence that we must do, and it's not gonna slow it down that much. I don't see any reason to make a decision when we have no idea what the public in that area wants.
Looking at what Mary is proposing, I think the one question tonight that we may be able to answer as a board is whether or not we do want to work with the city, period, on the project.
I mean, I'm not sure what that question is.
So we would be putting the pump in, but that doesn't mean there's a commitment as to the location or the amenities. It's just saying, it's opening the dialogue with the city to be able to say, this is an option, this is something the board wants to move forward in discussing.
The problem with that is that's almost saying that we're going to do it. And I don't know if I'm going to vote for it because I want to know what my constituents think about it. I'm not against it. I'm just saying I want to know what they have to say about it.
I think if we say no, then they just go try to find a new place. Because I think if we say no, then they're gonna go try to find a new place because of the location.
Then if they do, they do.
It's just one pump, right? Did you say one pump?
It's one building, one
building,
pump. We
okay.
just call it the
Just
pump
terminals.
station, one building, one facility, right?
I mean, I don't think the city's gonna run around and try to find someplace else. According to the staff report, it says that it's basically one of two places that they can do it. Like I said, I'm not saying no. I just want to look into it because that's my job.
I think that is part of the answer then, looking into it, right?
Yeah.
Is one request that I do have in moving forward is just making sure that the outreach to the community, if it's door to door, leaving a note. I know sometimes whenever there's street maintenance being done, the city comes out and puts that. So making sure that that's done to whatever the appropriate surrounding area. I don't know how that's usually covered, but I think that would be just a great opportunity of that surrounding area. And then we'll make sure on our side, to put it out on socials and just really trying to communicate that out because, it's a significant change. And then Director Fernandez and Director Schlangen, what is your input in terms of, do you want to see this partnership with the city or with the pump moving forward with just the idea of it?
Yeah, I guess I'm for working with the city on this, but again, I would be willing also to hear from the public what exactly they would want, and if this is something. I guess, sir, if I did have one question, if not here, where?
Correct, thank you. Yes, and to clarify in the information that was provided there's two pump stations that we're proposing to build. Totally separate. They serve separate elevations. So this is the one, the eastern one, and then the other one is further to the west. We have a property identified for that already that we're moving forward with. In this area is very challenging to find somewhere in a fully developed, built-out area. There's a couple churches not too far away on Las Posas and Loma, I believe, that could be potential. They have parking lot, grass area, all of that's fully used right now, so it's highly unlikely that we could work something out there. So this is the most viable and pretty much the only spot that would work because it really needs to be nearby this zone, this area that the water's being served for efficiencies.
I'm not against this. I don't know enough about it other than what I've read in the staff report. I don't know enough about it to say yes or no. All I want to do is make sure that the people that are going to be impacted, I mean, this isn't a small building. This is, in regard to that piece of land, it's taken up a large chunk. And we're going to have problems moving stuff around, I can tell you right now. And we may end up having to, if we don't want to cut down trees, we're going to end up with no basketball possibly. I don't know what the decision will be on that. I don't want that to happen. And I don't, it's not that I don't want to work with the city. I just want to work with my constituents and find out what they want to do. And that's what they would expect me to do, and that's what I will do.
Mary, do you have enough direction, or do you need a more formalized?
Well, I need something to say we're either going to do it or you want to bring it back, or, which it sounds like the direction is to bring it back after doing some outreach to the community.
I don't understand that. Why can't we just put it on calendar for 2 months and and bring it back?
Well, that's what I'm asking. So my question is is the direction right now is that you want to bring it back after they've had discussions with the community to see what this looks like? That's what I need to confirm.
Is that okay with you, Director Fernandez?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're kind of slicing and dicing this a few different ways. Like, if the vote is to work with the city, yes. I think part of that is to work with your constituents, right? And if we say, yes, we're going to vote with the city, work with the city, and we talk to our constituents and the constituents say no, then we absolve the situation, I guess. But I don't think we're quite there yet. I think we're just saying, do we want to vote? Do we want to work with the city on this location? And if so, yes.
Correct. Yes.
Nothing is going to stop the city from doing whatever preliminaries that they want to do. They can do them on their own. They don't need our participation for that.
Can you clarify what you mean by that, Director Kelly?
I'm sorry?
The preliminary aspect that you're talking about, like
Whatever
in terms of...
further, like, for instance, they don't know exactly how much it's going to cost, so I assume they're going to want to figure that out. They're going to want to source materials and so forth, and making sure they have all their ducks in a row. That's going to take a month or two at the least.
David?
Right. Actually, to really refine that, we need to move towards an exact location. And city's very interested and willing to work with the district and the board to provide the community outreach and gather additional information, even propose a possible other location to the west that may not affect the basketball court, but bring that back as an option. And so we're very willing to provide whatever information we need to help move things along. And but we are at the point where we do need to to take those steps.
You and I are not too much different. If I were to walk in here with a proposal like this, I'd want it tonight. Guarantee it. I'd want to walk out of here with a yes. But at least as far as I'm concerned, that's not going to happen.
No, the city's very satisfied with this, what I'm hearing, a direction that the district is open to the possibility of locating a pump station here if it checks all the boxes, if it satisfies all the concerns, if the constituents have no issues with it. Not uncommon for any other project that the city goes through, whether it's a road project or a sewer line project. So we're more than willing and plan to take those steps. And just appreciate, it sounds like the openness to work with the city, taking the next baby steps forward to bring back the information that's needed to proceed.
Okay, so to summarize, from my understanding, Director Kelly, you would like to bring this back for further discussion in terms of reaching out to constituents, wanting to hear back from them, correct? And then Director Fernandez and Director Schlingen, you are, in terms of outreach, you agree with that, and you also agree that you want to move forward with the city on the proposal, potentially putting this there, correct? I am also in that boat of wanting to move forward with this project.
Okay.
Pending constituent, or pending feedback.
Then what we will do is work with the city and figure out what that needs to look like for outreach, and then come back with more probably succinct spaces. And after that, also looking at what that looks like for if we're going to need to have a discussion of it needs to stay there, and if it needs to stay there, where we put a basketball court. If that's not the case, whether bathrooms, no bathrooms. So, okay, got it.
Is that the direction you're looking for?
I think I have the direction based on that conversation. So it sounds like I know where we're headed. So,
great,
good.
Why can't we just have it that we bring it back in 2 months?
We
don't have to commit ourselves to anything.
Well, we can bring it back in 2 months, but I want to make sure what the board is wanting us to bring back, so it's clear when we're having conversations with the city, what's important. And it sounds like what's important is we need to, a couple things. One, you want to make sure the constituents have some input to this. The other thing we want to look at is whether we want bathrooms or not. So that'll be it. If the constituents don't like it right across and we move it to the west, then those are conversations. But that's why I want to make sure that I'm understanding what the board wants. So when we're asking people, we're all in line. So.
From my point of view, I don't want to agree to do anything until we've done our due diligence.
Well, I think that's kind of what we're talking about.
Okay.
Go do your due diligence.
Yes.
Thank you so much,
Do you need a
David, for your
motion?
time.
Thank you very much.
No motion, just direction. We'll move on to item B, consideration and approval of the California Public Employees Retirement System, CalPERS, Actuarial Evaluation Information Report as of June 2024.
I know how to clear a room.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's CalPERS.
All right, thank you, Chair Dransfeld, Board of Directors. Tonight, I am here to speak about the CalPERS Annual Actuarial Evaluation Report and kind of give kind of a bit more depth of CalPERS, what it is. It's always nice to do a little refresher, how it works, where we are, and how we can continue to move forward. So for those who don't know, CalPERS stands for the California Public Employees Retirement System. It offers a defined benefit retirement plan. Really an easy way to think of this is a pension for all intents and purposes. So every year what CalPERS does is they provide an annual valuation report that includes the minimum employer contributions, changes from previous year's valuation, and then hits some of the points for the district's plan. So liabilities, funding levels, employer contributions, as well as other kind of statistics that let us know what the health of not only CalPERS as a whole system, but what our district contributions and liabilities are for people who work for our district specifically. So CalPERS was established in 1932 as a state employees retirement system and changed to CalPERS in 1992 to avoid confusion with other systems, since state employees retirement system, which state? Now we know it's California. It's governed by a 13-member board of administration. It is the nation's largest pension fund. So they service more than 2 million members in the retirement system itself. They also offer a health plan that's a CalPERS Health, and they service more than 1.5 million members and families in their health program. So the CalPERS was initially just the retirement, and then now they also do CalPERS health plans, which is what the district is also a part of. So it's a nice big pool, 1.5 million members in one pool kind of helps keep premiums down. So a little background with the district's history with CalPERS specifically. 1969, we entered into an agreement with CalPERS on September 1st. In 2007, the district board approved the 2.5% at 55 CalPERS retirement plan. In 2011, the board approved a two-tiered program, which reestablished a 2% at 60 plan for new employees, which was the original plan, and then in 2007 to switch. And in 2013, CalPERS realized that kind of the situation with CalPERS wasn't sustainable. And I think you see that with a lot of pensions, public retirement systems, just Social Security, anywhere where, people are living longer, which is great. But these systems back in, the 30s, 40s, 50s, people were the expected age of maybe 60, 70. I think we've pushed that life expectancy. So they looked at the plan. They said, how do we fix this? They made a whole host of changes across the whole system itself. For our purposes, they established a 2% at 62 plan that all of our new employees will be on until potentially they change it again, which might be coming because people are still living longer. But what that did is, for those who don't know, what the percentage is for how many years of service, what your salary replacement would be. And then the at 55, 60, 62 is at that age. So if you're 2% at 60, if you retire at the age of 60, you get 2% salary replacement for every year you worked in the system. So if you worked 15 years for CalPERS and you retire at the age of 60, you will get 30% of your salary, annual salary replacement for the rest of your life in monthly installments. One of the things that PEPRA did was originally it was your most recent year. You had a lot of people kind of, let's just say, taking advantage of. If I know I'm going to retire next year and I only need to look at my previous year, well, if I now make $250,000 a year just for 1 year, where my job was normally $150,000, I want to retire getting $250,000 wage replacement, not the $150,000 most of my career was. So PEPRA changed it to a 3-year look back average to kind of address that. People were getting these overtime, these salary increases just for their last year of service because they knew they were retiring. So that was one of the things PEPRA addressed, as well as bumping up. So, if you have to work an extra 2 years to get that 2%, that's longer working in the system, more contributing to the system. That's 2 less years potentially that they have to pay out. So that's where PEPRA really tried to bring this thing kind of back in line. So that's where we're at now. Everybody for our district specifically, all new employees will always be 2% at 62. There are still other systems of safety. Various safety plans will still be 2.5 at 55, 2.5 at 58. These are harder, jobs, firefighters, police. So they still have kind of that better pension, but to address the fact that they're probably doing more wear and tear on their bodies. So you'll see different plans at different agencies depending on class of work. But for our district, we are under the 2% at 62. Now, later in the presentation, we'll talk about where our employees fall under those 3 brackets. So just a little history on the CalPERS system there. So looking at the financial report that we just got. So CalPERS, because it's such a large plan, there's so many moving parts, their valuations are always released around August, September for the prior fiscal year. So this report is the CalPERS system as of June 30, 2024. But we get the report in August, September of 2025, because it takes that long, because they want to make sure that the numbers they're giving us is as close and accurate as possible. There's so many moving parts. So many, there are over 2 million people in the system. So it takes some time. So this financial report is as of June 30, 2024. They also they put the report out in August 2025, and what they are saying is the next fiscal year for us, 2026, 2027, is where this report takes effect. So there's a 2-year kind of delay when, if we say, so we are 75% funded as of June 30, 2024, which affects our minimum unfunded liability payment of fiscal year 2027, which makes it a little kind of hard to wrap around. Sometimes you're like, well, we had a really good year this year, but, back after COVID, when we had that minus 7% year, the stock market kind of took a tumble, we didn't get the effect of that until 2 years later. So you do kind of have a little bit of time to plan. But when we're looking at this, keep in mind that this is as of June 30, 2024, not June 30, 2025. So when the report came out, CalPERS as a whole, the whole system was 75% funded, which is better. They want to be closer to 85, 90% as a whole system, but 75% is better than where they've been before, somewhere around 67 a couple years ago. The other part of this is that they call it the discount rate. The assumptions that the actuaries do is that they're going to return 6.8% on their investments on average for the life of CalPERS. They've posted a 6.7 or higher for the last 20 years on average. So they're about that. So when we're saying they're 75% funded, all things being equal, if they only return 6.8% for 100 years and everything else in their assumptions didn't change, they would still be 75% funded 100 years later. So they need to hit that 6.8%. When they go above it, the percent funded goes up. When they go below it, the percent funded goes down. So that's they don't always hit the projected return. They have lowered this expected rate a couple times over the life of CalPERS, again, trying to get this kind of system under control. It was 7% a few years ago. After COVID, we had that really good year. I think it was 11% return. So they lowered it from 7% to 6.8%. The reason being, if I say, hey, I'm always going to make 7% on returns, but I'm averaging 6.8%, their assumptions will always be wrong. The funded liability will always be, they're always going to be less funded. So they said, we need to bring that back down to a more reasonable expectation. But what that means is when they lower their expected return, it increases everyone's liability. Because if I think I'm going to make $68 for every, or $70 for every 1,000, and I'm only going to make $68 for every 1,000, I'm $2 short off my original assumptions. So there's a lot going on here. There's a lot to kind of wrap your head around, but they're now at 6.8%. I can say they're looking at whenever they have a return that's greater than 2% more than the discount rate. So if they have a year where it's 8.8% or more, it used to be that automatically they would lower the discount rate. And the reason they would do that is because if you have a good return, lowering the rate doesn't hurt as bad because you've made so much money to lower the rate offsets that change in assumption. They've recently changed it to instead of automatically, they have to have it as a discussion. I can say, from what I've heard, they don't plan on lowering the discount rate this year. They'll have to have the discussion again next year because they posted, I think, at 9% this fiscal year. So next report will be at 9%. They'll probably have the discussion again next year. And I think, again, there's no kind of desire right now to lower it below 6.8% because it's pretty close to their 20-year average. So we're probably going to stay at 6.8% for the near future. So that's kind of where CalPERS as a system itself is at. So here's what I was talking about. So the policy was amended in 2024. Instead of mandatory lowering, they have to discuss it. It was 7.5% in 2018. It went to 7%. Now it's 6.8%, which I think they're happy with. They're probably going to keep it at this rate for the near future. Yes.
Let's assume that they did lower the discount. And then it didn't work out like it doesn't often. My understanding is everybody in the system takes the hit. No matter what the discount rate is, you're going to pay one way or another. Isn't that the case?
Correct. It's just if
There's no way to get out of it just because they miss the, or
right.
Somebody has to pay the money.
Right. What it does is the reason they lower it is because when they don't hit the rate, it hurts more. So if they were at 7.5%, they say, oh, your unfunded liability is only $3 million because we're going to make 7.5%, and then they only hit 6.8%. Well, now your unfunded liability has to go up because the $4 million was on the assumption of always hitting 7.5. So what they do is they reduce it to 6.8%. But simply reducing their discount rate to 6.8% makes your unfunded liability go up because they don't expect to make 7.5% for the life of the plan anymore. But once you kind of get settled in that assumption that it's only 6.8%, it takes a couple years. It hurts to go from 4 million to 5 million for no reason other than lowering the rate. But now when they hit 6.8%, instead of being 0.7% off, they hit the number they thought they were, your liability is not going to go up just because they hit 6.8%. They did that, you take the one-time pain and then you figure it out versus, oh, we think it's 7.5%, we hit 6.8, your unfunded liability goes from 4 million to 4.5. Oh, we hit 6.8% again, now it goes from 4.5 to 5, 5 to 6 to 7 to 8. Instead, they say, oh, it's 6.8%. So now our assumption is every time we hit 6.8%, it won't change, but it goes from 4 million to 5.5 or 5.8. It's less surprising every year that the report comes out, is the theory. So no matter what, you're probably still going to pay something at the end of it, but if the discount rate was 0% and they we're never going to make money on our stuff, our unfunded liability would probably be something like 16, 15 million. But we would always be lowering it unless they posted a negative return. But 15 million is a lot harder to manage than where we're at, which is like 6.5 million. So there's a lot. It takes a while to get your head around this. So they also do the transparency report, which is separate from our evaluation report, but this is for CalPERS as a whole. Again, it's data as of last fiscal year because they want to make sure their numbers are right. They posted a 9.3% investment return, which gives them just over $551 billion in total assets, which again, their funded status is at 75% based on that 6.8% discount rate. Now, they did do a press release. Again, these are preliminary numbers. They haven't crunched them all, but in July of 2025, they're saying, quick look, they think June 30, 2025, they brought in an 11.6% return. So that's 2 years where they're way above that 6.8%. So that's going to be good for unfunded liability for everyone in the system, which they estimate their funding status will grow from 75% to 79% as a system, which is good for us because the more healthy the system is, the less likely they need to make changes like PERS, where they're adjusting retirement formulas or making the unfunded liability bigger because they need more cost of living. So when CalPERS is at a higher funding rate, we know that's more security for what our obligation to the system is. So looking at, as of today, these are the active members per pension plan. So in that 2.5% at 55, we have 9 members who were here back in 2007 when that plan was switched, who are still on that 2.5 at 55. We have 3 members at the 2 at 60 because there's only 2 years from when we were at the 2 at 60 when we went to PEPRA, which is the 2% at 62, which is the bulk of our active employees, which is 28. So their goal, again, CalPERS wants everyone on PEPRA, and it's good for all the plans, the more you can get on PEPRA, because again, it's a more manageable kind of retirement system. Now, this is where, for us specifically, it does become more tricky. So the non-active members are people who aren't working for the district, and that's split into 3 groups. In the past, if you've looked at prior board packets, they used to split they would give us 3 plans, 1 for the 55, 1 for the 60, 1 for the 62. We get 3 valuation reports. They did that for us because we're what's called the miscellaneous risk pool. We have less than 100 active employees. So all agencies who have less than 100 active employees are on their own, are in one big pool. So we're in CalPERS, we're our own district, but we're kind of in the same pool as I think there's 200 or 300 agencies that are less than 100 employees. So really we're all on the same pool within CalPERS, so like a kind of a little Russian doll situation. We're nested inside the miscellaneous risk pool, which is nested inside CalPERS as a whole. For any agency that wasn't in the pool, so agencies with more than 100 employees, they always only got one report for all their plans. They split it up for those in the miscellaneous risk pool because there's smaller numbers that you're dealing with. I mean, you can see we only have 3 people in the 2 at 60. And I think in the past, they had agencies that were like, we want to be able to manage in our pool our individual plans. But the reality of it was that there never was individual plans. We as a district are one district in CalPERS. If we fully paid off 2 at 60 and 2 at 62, but 2.5 at 55 was, 5 million unfunded, the 2.5 at 55 really is going to use that money that we put in for the 2 at 60 and 2 at 62 because it's just one district. There never was that segregation between the 3 unfunded liabilities. It was kind of a bookkeeping trick. So they've said, we're making all these reports, all these agencies are getting 4 separate, some agencies were getting 7 because they had different safety plans and their normal plans and 3 normal plans and 2 safety. So it kind of gave this false illusion for agencies that these 2 plans are fine. So if everything, goes wrong, at least these 2 plans are fine. But the reality is they're all pulling from the same pool. So they said, let's give agencies a more clear picture of what their CalPERS looks like. And what that looks like is all the plans are in one. So we only have the one transparency report this year. So you'll see when we're looking at this, they've got the classic plans. In the past, that was split up 2.5 at 55, 2 at 60, 2 at 62. They're now calling it, here's your classic plans and here's your PEPRA, because they want everyone on PEPRA, so they're going to pull that out separately. But again, at the end of the day, it's all coming from the same pot. So looking at classic plans, I couldn't tell you who's on the 2.5 at 55, who's on the 2 at 60, but I can tell you because I know we've only ever had, 4 members that were on the 2 at 60. So one of these is 2 at 60 in the transferred members, the rest are 2.5 at 55. But we only know that because we've got such a small pool. But the transferred members are anyone who worked for our agency in CalPERS that is now working for another agency that is also CalPERS. We pick up whatever portion is appropriate for however many years they worked for us at whatever salary level. So say somebody works for us for 2 years and then goes somewhere else and works there for 28 years. We're only picking up 2 years at a smaller salary rate, but they still did earn that kind of under our umbrella. So it's only fair that we cover the time that they worked for us. So that's 10 members in the classic and then 7 from PEPRA. So these are employees that worked for us for even just one pay period and then move somewhere else. So I couldn't tell you what the bulk of it is, but we know that there's 17 employees out there working for other CalPERS agencies that worked for us at some time. The separated members are employees that worked for us and are no longer in CalPERS. Again, this could be anyone who worked one paycheck, got paid once, and decided not to work here, but we reported their payment to CalPERS. So we have 76 employees that no longer are in the CalPERS system but worked for us. So they make up a portion of what our unfunded liability is. Depending on how long they worked for us, it's a smaller or bigger portion. The biggest one, and this is where the bulk of our unfunded liability is there's 67 retirees pulling from our CalPERS pool. Now, again, this could be people who worked for us for 10, 15, 20 years. It could be people who worked for us for 2 years. But almost all of them are on 2.5 at 55, which again is a much more generous retirement plan. So when we talk about the unfunded liabilities, why is it so big? That's why. We don't have as many people working on that 2.5 at 55. So until we kind of get through, the next 10, 15 years, we're just fighting this unfunded liability. It's just we're getting a handle on it, but it was growing much faster than we could pay it off. So this is non-active members on our plan. And again, active members right now there's all of our full-time employees who are on CalPERS. So then all that to say, with CalPERS, they say, we've crunched the numbers. We've looked at how many employees are working for your district, what the average salary is, our expectation on potential wage increases, our expectation on inflation, survivorship rates, 6.8% return for the life of the plan. All that coming together, you still owe $663,504 next fiscal year because everything else being equal, you're still short, I skip ahead of it, we're still short $6.9 million. And so with all that other stuff that they've taken into account and done the numbers on, to bring that liability to a manageable point, we still even need to make a lump sum payment of $663,504 on top of everything else. In 27-28, that payment's $685,000. In 28-29, that payment's $747,000. Minimum payments, you can't get out of it. It's like a credit card or a mortgage. You have to pay it, or else there's penalties. I will say these numbers presented are, with CalPERS, you have the option of doing 12 monthly payments or a lump sum in July at the beginning of the fiscal year. These numbers represent the 12 monthly payments. So these numbers, we always pay the lump sum because we have the cash and it represents, I think, a 3 or 4% savings. So we always pay the lump sum. So already we know we're going to be paying less than these numbers presented, but these are the numbers in the report. So these are the numbers we present. The other thing that I'll say is these numbers don't account for any additional discretionary payments that we may make, which we've done for the last 3 years. So when we make those additional discretionary payments, if we make them before April, they'll show up in this report. So in this report, that $100,000 we did in April this year is reflected here. We did do another $300,000 in June. That is not reflected here, but will be reflected on the actual payment that we get from CalPERS. So these numbers are inflated a bit, but this is what's in the report. So we present what's in the report because I don't want to guesstimate what it's going to be and be wrong, even though I do later. I can also say that 27-28, again, they're assuming 6.8%. We know they hit 11%. So we know that 685 is going to come down just by virtue of that. But we've got to wait for next year's report to see that in actuality. They also do every 4 or 5 years an analysis of what are survivorship rates, what are inflation, do we need to change some of our other actuary numbers? In the meetings I've gone to, they don't see much changing, couple tweaks here and there, but they don't think it's going to have an overall effect. So we're probably good with the next 4 or 5 years that nothing drastic is going to happen to their valuations. So this is the unfunded liability minimum payment for the next 3 fiscal years, knowing that these numbers are a little bit inflated. The next one is...
Wait, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So these numbers right here, they're never static. So hitting a higher number, like 11% or something, will make these numbers go down.
Correct.
At the same time, there's something working on the other side that causes these numbers to go up. What are those items?
If people are living longer than they expected, inflation is higher than they anticipated. They have a number that they use that they expect on average across every agency. The salary increases year over year are going to be X%. I don't know what it is, but those are those are all the factors they have that they're calculating when they put these reports out. And then as they're adjusting and looking at what actually happens, we might have a more reasonable, let's say it's a 7.1% return, so 0.3% more than the discount rate. So like, well, that's more, but the unfunded liability might still go up because they're like, well, people are living on average half a year longer. So they're gonna bump anyone who's a retiree and then anyone who's an active member. But if you have less active members and more retirees, your wage coming in isn't gonna support that as much. So there's a whole host of factors.
So we're just chasing our tails pretty much.
Yes, I mean, there are some agencies that are 100% funded. There are some agencies that are like 102, 103% funded because they're 92% funded, then you have a 9% and then 11% year. And so just by virtue, their 93 becomes 102. But then you have a year where it's, like the year after COVID where it was a -7%. Well, it's not just -7% because they're supposed to get 6.8, so it's really -14%. So you're 102% funded now becomes maybe 93% again. So your goal, the general rule of thumb is to get around 92 to 93% funded. And if you're there, you should be happy with where you're at, all things being equal. You have some wiggle room where those bad years are gonna hurt, but because your funded status is high, you're not gonna see as much on your unfunded liability because you're mostly funded. Really, these minimum payments are just to get you to a point where those fluctuations just aren't as big. Because if you're 10% funded and your unfunded liability is 16 million and you miss that 6.8%, your minimum payments are going to go up that much more because you're so wide off the mark. So our goal is to get to that 93% funded, and we're making progress. We are getting there. So the other portion that for us is of a budgetary consideration is the employer contribution rate. So this is the people working, pay into the system to eventually pull out of the system. And so using all of the other valuations, this is the other half of, there's the minimum payment, that's a lump sum, and then what they think our working employees need to pay into the system for our plan to be sustainable. So they see that our employer contribution rate is going to be 13.44% next year, 10.18% for 2 at 60, 7.93 for 2 at 62. These they still split out because they say these numbers still matter, but the other ones don't to split out. I don't know why, but that's the reason why is because there are legal with 2.5 at 55, employees will never pay more than 8% of their contribution. With 2 at 62 with PEPRA, they got rid of that and said it will always be as close to a 50-50 split employer-employee as possible. So that is why they still split these out, but it still all goes to the same pot. I will say this represents a reduction in all 3 plans from this year. So because of our additional discretionary payments we've made, the benefit of the good years that we've had this last year and this year, we've gone down in our employer contribution rate, which will reduce the CalPERS costs for our employees, all things being equal. They always round for the 2 years following because, again, it's always a rolling number. So they say next year 13.4, 10.2, and 7.9, and then the same for the year after. So they're saying we're at a good point where they're not going to need to drastically increase or decrease these numbers, and we've actually seen a reduction across all 3. Small, 0.1 to 0.02% differences, but we are seeing a reduction in the employer contribution across these plans, which is a good sign. And so all of that, we're at 6.9 million with our unfunded liability balance. And so to put this in perspective, where we started 3 years ago, 2022, 2023 fiscal year, this is from the report that they released in August of 23 for June 30, 2022, which was at minus 7.5% return year. You can see our unfunded liability at that point was 7.2 million, was the highest UAL in fiscal year 23-24, third from the top. And our highest mid-year minimum payment was $835,000 in fiscal year 31-32. So at that time of that report, we were going to see almost a $800,000 UAL payment. However, looking at this report, you can see our highest UAL now is only 6.9 million, which is this year. The highest mid-year payment is $666,000. So we see an unfunded liability reduction of almost $200,000 and a highest payment reduction of $169,000. Now that's just the highest. All of those payments have gone down. You can see fiscal year 26-27 from the June 30, 22 report was supposed to be $662,000. Looking at it now, it's only supposed to be $641,000. And again, this is the monthly payment, so we know that's also further reduced to, when we're looking at cash flow for the district, when we're looking at budgets, to not have to budget, $835,000 to come out of the cash at the beginning of the year really frees up a lot of stuff for the district to do, capital projects, to pay for supplies necessary, water we know is going up. So every 10, 15, 20,000 we can save from here just gives the district that much more ability to actually do what we need to do to make the parks, the facilities, the programs be nice and effective for the community. And so this is a combination of, there are good returns that we've had. I will not lie and say this is all because we put the additional discretionary payments in there, but we have put almost $1 million in additional discretionary payments into this, our CalPERS unfunded liability. Now, keep in mind, this report does not reflect that $300,000 that we did in June of 2025. So that is a further reduction on here that I've kind of tried to make a guesstimate later on. But I just want to show that because we've knocked so much of this down, if we just assume next year, we already know it's 11.6, but let's say, looking at this report, they brought in a 0% return. They didn't make any money, they didn't lose any money, it's a 0%, so we missed the mark by 6.8%. Our highest unfunded liability is still only 6.9, which is this year. Our highest mid-year payment is $794,000. So going back to June 30, 2022, that's still a reduction of almost $200,000 on our unfunded liability, and the highest payment reduction is still reduced by $41,000. So even when there's a bad return for CalPERS to a 0%, now we know they can go -7, but even looking at a 0% return, which is 6.8% miss, we're still seeing a reduction from 3 years ago. And that is the benefit of making these additional discretionary payments is, again, the highest payments reduced by $41,000, but over the whole life of making these payments, we're seeing, $15,000, $20,000 every year, which for our district, for, our size of our budget, an extra $20,000, $25,000 in cash flow does go a long way for us. So it's not just, oh, we've had good years, that's why it's gone down. It's also because we've made that consistent effort to make those extra payments. And again, using the mortgage or the credit card, your minimum is, $3,000 a month for your mortgage. But if you pay $6,000, you knock maybe 10 years off that mortgage. And that's kind of the mentality we're trying to do here is we could make the minimum payments, but you're paying more in interest. It lasts a lot longer and your payments get higher before they're smaller. So I just wanted to kind of show you the benefit of making those payments, having those good returns, and seeing what we've done with this is we've knocked, $41,000 to $100,000 off of these payments. So I thought that was instructive to kind of see the progress we've made just in 3 years. And again, this isn't even with the $300,000 we paid, so this is going to go down even more.
Are there agencies that are completely upside down?
There's a few.
How many?
Couldn't tell you. I don't want to pull the number.
Because that could break the system down, the more of them there are. Because if that happens, and they're just saying, we can never catch up, we're so far in debt, the heck with it, somebody will propose, guarantee it, that they get bailed out. And the people that are going to bail them out might be us.
Mm.
And so I would like to know what the ratio is of how many, and you don't have to tell me now, but of how many agencies are in really underwater as far as making their payment. They're the ones basically that are so down the totem pole that they're never going to get out.
And we can look at that.
Because I would like to know how many of them there are. Because that'll give me a look in the future of what likely is going to happen.
Yeah. And you are correct that the whole system would bear a bit of that. But in cases as well in the past where that's happened, the unfortunate situation that does happen sometimes is if they're so far out of it that they get kicked off CalPERS and their retirees stop getting payments. So
I'm not sure that would happen in today's climate, but it could.
Well, and depending on who is underwater, obviously,
Yes,
the bigger
exactly.
agencies, too big to fail kind of a thing. So
Yes.
it would definitely, but I do know there have been some sad stories of smaller, districts and agencies that, about our size that just couldn't make the payments anymore. And they say, they try and work with them as best they can. And, you can try and do a bond to pay for some of that, or just some kind of debt financing, but that's always a tough sell to the public.
Usually they've already done that and that's failed.
And so the ultimate solution is your agency is not on CalPERS. Anyone who's paid in is no longer on CalPERS. Anyone who's been getting retirement payments is no longer getting those payments. And so it's very sad for the people who have been relying on or have been making those payments. And somebody who's a year away from retiring and has paid, 20 years of, 8% into CalPERS, that money is gone. That's the other reason we really don't want to find ourselves in that hole, because it is a disservice to the employees that are on the system to then say, well, now you're not going to get this anymore.
Well, I don't think they would let that happen. So I think that the situation would be, they'll look around for somebody else to pay. And so it's not that we can do anything about it, but I would just like to know what the systems.
I'll do some research and get that over to you.
Okay, thanks.
So as I've been kind of harping on, this doesn't reflect the June payment of $300,000. So I took their spreadsheets and kind of worked my numbers into it. This is a fair representation, I will say, of what it should look like with the next report. But again, there are a host of other factors that I'm not able to make adjustments on. But I think this gets us in a rough ballpark of where we'll be when that next report comes out, because we're going to take into account the $300,000 in June. We're going to take into account the 11% return. And so what we see now is the estimated accrued liability for next year should really be $641,226. 27, 28 should be $634,000, and 28, 29 should be $666,000. So for reference, we were looking at 663, 685, and 747. So I mean, that last one goes from 747 to 666, which is, again, a very nice cash flow for us in a budgeting year that we've got, hey, we've almost got another $80,000 that we can put towards what will probably go towards water, but, other things that need it. So I just wanted to, so that's what I'm projecting right now. Again, I think these numbers will be close to accurate, but I don't want anyone to write them down in pen. Don't reference these next year when the report comes out and says, hey, you said it was going to be this. Should be within a margin of error. But the other nice thing that looking at this is our unfunded liability balance, I estimate, should be somewhere around 5.8 million. So almost $1 million getting knocked off of that compared to the report right now. So again, that's a combination of the $300,000 payment that we've made, also the fact that they've exceeded the 6.8%. So that $300,000 is realized because it's not covering for a shortfall, which is something you might see is if we put $300,000 in, but the plan returns 5%, you're like, well, why did our unfunded liability not go down by $300,000? I was like, well, because it covered that shortfall. But because it was 11%, which is almost, well, not quite almost, but it's about 5% more than what they expected. That's close to double, plus the $300,000, that compounding brings this thing down almost $1 million. So well, I'm excited to see the next report. We'll see, but it's good news, I think, for the CalPERS situation that, again, we were at 7.2 million in June of 22, and we've almost knocked 1.4 million off that. And that's an accomplishment, I will say. So all this to say, there's no real fiscal impact with presenting this report. Again, we budget these as part of the budgeting process. As we get the new reports, it's always what we think was going to be in 2 years is different. So we'll address any future payments in those future budget meetings. But this is more of an informational item. So the only thing is we always ask is that the board recommend that the staff continue to work with the finance committee on options for reducing future unfunded liability payments and to present those options to full board as we've done the last few years with those additional discretionary payments. So, any questions?
Thank you, Justin. No questions. Director Schlangen?
I'm assuming our 2 new employees were put into PEPRA.
Yes.
Okay.
We don't have a choice.
Okay, all right.
They wouldn't let us even if we tried, which we don't try.
All right. And 300,000 that we've given this year, how does that compare to what we have done in past years?
It's about on average. So we only started doing the additional discretionary payments in fiscal year 23 because that's when the unfortunate reality is in the June of 2021, the stock market had that really good year and they exceeded that 6.8% by more than 2%. And at that time, they had no choice. They had to reduce it by 0.2% on the discount rate, which, as we've said, makes your unfunded liability go up. Now, on that report, it only went up to, I think it went from, I think it was 4.8 million, and it should have pushed it up to maybe 5.1 million. But you also had that minus 7.6% year at the same time immediately following. So not only did they reduce the discount rate, which increased the unfunded liability, they missed by almost 14%, which increased it that much more. We went from 4.8 to 7.2 in 1 year's reports. And so at that point, we said, hey, this thing's really gotten out of control, factors beyond our control, but how can we start addressing? So we started looking at, we brought in some agencies that deal with municipal financing. They did a couple presentations. We looked at, hey, what are our options? In the past, people did do, bonds and other kind of financing because 6.8% is essentially your interest rate. So if you could get a financing for 3%, it's like, bring all your credit cards and consolidating your debt. Your mortgage is 7%. You push out the years, but you can refinance at 4%. You're going to save that much on interest. Unfortunately, we were at the time where rates were not worth doing that because to do a financing was like 6.5% on the interest. So we looked at what are our options, and really our only option was put the additional money in and hope that you can chip away at it. So since 2023, we did 300,000 that year. We did 450,000 last year and another 400,000 this year. So we've been about on average 350 to 400,000. Now, say in years past, we were able to do that because we've had very wet winters. We saw a lot of savings in our water budget. We know that water has gone up in price, so if we don't have a wet winter, we probably don't have that same level of savings that we relied on the past to kind of make these payments. But I still think even 100,000, 50,000, any additional payment we can make does have some small compounded effect. Again, if we can, you're paying it down and then you're not paying the interest on what you've paid down. So it almost doubles itself over the life of it. And you see maybe a $50,000 payment might bring it down $2,000 or $3,000 a year. But again, when you get into the point where you need another $5,000, that 2 or 3 has a good.
Yeah. I'm in full support of you working with the Finance Committee to find ways to pay off this unfunded liability. I guess my question to you is, how come this is not the norm? How come this is not the goal always?
It really depends on the cash flow. Again, if we've budgeted this year for $980,000 for water, just using that budget line, because we know that the city's raised rates. We know that we've had very wet winters. Looking back, not complete drought, but, years where it wasn't as wet, we had, some rain, but not a lot. I mean, I think 3 years ago, or 4 years ago, our water payments were $700,000, $800,000. And then the year after that, it was $550,000. Hey, we saved all this money, let's knock this off. But if we have another dry year with the rate increases on water, $980,000, we hope will cover it. But if it's no rain, we're back to drought where we get 1 day of rain in July or through July, that budget might not be there. So if we don't have the cash on hand to make those payments, it's kind of like, the robbing Peter to pay Paul situation, but you're really kind of hurting yourselves. So That's why it hasn't historically been done. And then again, it hasn't been that near level of urgency just because it wasn't 7.2 million, it was 4 million, you know? So that's why we like to, now that we're aware of it, and we're aware of our solutions and options, we're trying to keep it on the radar now that we just consistently come back, we present the report, talk about where we're at, and say, let's keep looking at. If we ever get to 90, 93% funded, we can have a conversation about, hey, maybe we hold off this year. So.
And Justin, really, you've been so knowledgeable in being able to explain this and doing best practices and whatnot. Like, you're such a huge contribution to helping that. So thank you very much. Director Fernandez or Director Kelly, any further questions? All right.
Answered all mine.
Great. Then, do you need any further direction? Are you good? All right, great. We'll move on to item C, consideration and approval of status report for the future multi-use gymnasium.
All right. So just for a little bit of, excuse me, just for a little bit of background, as you remember, we conducted a senior and community recreation facility study. And part of the original highlights for that, I'm going to have a couple slides just repetitive, and then we'll go into where we're at. What we saw is that from the community, we had quality sports parks, quality of neighborhood parks, a variety of quality programs. One of the big things you'll see on here is a lack of multi-use or collaborative space, overcrowding in classrooms, and ADA needs. So if you remember when we first started this project, this was the option 1D was what was approved between the board and city council. So since that point, one of the things that we've had discussions on is the multi-use gymnasium and activity space. When we had the discussion last time, it was, we knew we didn't have the money. We knew that we needed to break this up. And the board's direction was to look at the multi-use gymnasium. So that would be the direction that we would head. So knowing that, one of the things we talked about is we hired a marketing firm, which was to help us with this slogan, start small, dream big. And it really is a push for the multi-use gymnasium. So as you remember, I've been sending stuff out. We've done a study, or we had a survey that was open. We kept that open for 3 to 4 weeks. We now have the results of the survey and looking at where we're headed. So additional desires and activities, as you can see, the things that we were missing are the sports side of it. And when I say that, I mean the active side. So whether it's basketball, table tennis, you saw a little bit tonight, pickleball, badminton, volleyball, and this is relating to indoors, fitness for yoga, tai chi. Some of our spaces right now, due to the number of people that are participating, we're running out of space for some of those larger things. The other thing that we heard from people is just multi-use collaborative spaces, special events, as you saw today. We do quite a bit of those, and people do enjoy those. Youth camps, event classes, and just lifelong learning were some of the things that came back. So really, what does that mean? So what we know today is what is committed. The city is still committed to the $8 million. The district is committed $1 million for the project. And we'll kind of go through some of this, but as we explore additional grant funding, one of the challenges that we have is that we are in an economic, or at least here in Camarillo, when you look at what our economic impact is not the right word, but when you look at our economics, part of the challenge is we have a lot of people that make over 100,000. And a lot of the grants and things that you're looking at are usually tied to low income. We don't necessarily fit that bill. And what's hard for people to understand, like we had applied for a grant for our Neal Ranch Park, and one of the things is we lost 30 points off the top because of the fact that we didn't fit in there. So as we tell people, we'll continue to look for that, but that is probably not one of the things, that is one of the things that's harder for us to gain. Phase 1, we're estimating at about $20 million. Again, knowing that part of this project is making it a phased approach, looking at about 16 to 20,000 square feet initially, somewhere in that range, which is the multi-use gymnasium. The second piece of this is we are exploring what's called the CFD, or some type of funding that will allow not just financing for the build, but also to be able to run programs. As we've had this conversation before, nothing we do in the district is 100% cost recovery. And part of this is to be able to make sure that if we're going to build something, we can actually run it, be able to provide programs to the community, which is why this is a key piece and why we're looking at this. If we only went out for a bond, the bond only pays for the facility. It does not pay for upkeep, doesn't pay for programming, doesn't pay for any of those things. So that's really important, and we've been having those conversations with the community because it's important that they understand those points. So what we did is we started taking steps and starting having conversations of what does this look like. And so part of this, again, is looking at different phases. First phase is looking at a multi-use gymnasium and being very specific with people. Because I think before, when we were having conversations and we'd say, oh, it's a multi-use facility or multi-use generational center, people didn't necessarily know exactly what that meant. Even though we'd say there was a gymnasium, or there was other areas, people still didn't understand what that meant. The other thing that we found is when we'd say gym, people were like, oh, like 24-hour fitness. And we're like, no. So on almost everything that we've been doing, you'll notice it says multi-use gymnasium, so everybody understands what that looks like. And so some of the results that we have seen is we had 588 people respond to it. Out of those respondents, what we did is looked at, okay, where do people live? So 37% that responded are north of the 101 and west of Arneal. You can see we're 44%, and then south of the 101. So we were looking at that, and I was like, man, south of the 101 isn't a whole lot of responses. However, it does track with the number of people that live there when you're looking at it, because a majority of your people in our district do live north of the 101. So percent of respondents registered, 90% were in our area, which means that we did have some people that responded, just like anything else, that don't necessarily live in the district. They could live in Somas, they could live in Oxnard, they could live up at the Hill, but participate in our programs, so they did respond. The average number of years that people that responded have been here for 20 years, which means that most of the residents and a lot of the people that live here, again, are longtime residents. Not uncommon, but 72% of the people that responded were females. And that's typical, because typically they're the ones that are filling out the surveys. 6 out of 10 respondents were younger than 55, which I thought was interesting. Because if you remember, like, one of the things that we've kind of heard is it's a senior, it's an older demographic, but really 55 is 6 out of 10. So that's a fairly large percentage that were around 55 or younger. So 55% indicated they have children at home. Again, this will help us as we continue this campaign and as we look at it. And a majority of the respondents, which is not uncommon when you look at the Camarillo demographics, it kind of gives you what the demographics and who responded. So what we did see was 9 out of 10 respondents believe that people do believe that they would benefit from a multi-use gymnasium. So the information, what this tells me is the information and the way we're getting out information is people are starting to listen and understand, and the ones that we're having this conversation with are like, hey, we do need this. 75%, or 3 out of 4, noted it was very important that we had some type of indoor recreational space. 52%, or over half, are unaware or unsure. And I think what this tells us is that, and we'll show this in a minute, but what that means is people that don't really know, you'll see this on the survey, is that they're not sure like where we should go with this, and that's just because they're unaware. So we have been out as part of this push, We've been out in the community quite a bit more. I know that we're over at the Ranch House, which is something new we hadn't done before. So we had a booth that was over there answering questions. We were answering questions at the summer concert series. We did 4 town halls. We had, if you were paying attention to any of our social media, you notice we had social media out. I've been at a couple different Rotary and a couple different meetings talking about this. I have probably 2 or 3 more coming up. So really, this is really trying to get out to the public and have these conversations of, again, what do you want? So what this slide shows is those that are aware of the capacity issues, you'll see we're more supportive, which is not uncommon. So the more that they knew, the more supportive they were. If they weren't aware or unsure, you can see where they're at with this is what they don't, like, I'm not sure, I don't know whether I support it, whether I don't, or if I'm just undecided. So what this tells me is if I look at the undecided, I'm a little happy about the undecided because that means that there's still some movement there. It's the no, I don't want to support it at all that concerns you a little bit, because at least if they don't know, we have the chance to at least have those conversations. So as we were having conversations and just looking at the information, so just pulling numbers from usage at the community center, is that, as you can see, that's been trending up. Now, I'm not going to say that that is just the senior center, but that is the usage and the amount of people that use that site since 2023, 24, and 25, and this year. And realize this data is just the last 12 months. We haven't seen, so you don't see in there any of the October, so those numbers will go up exponentially with all the Halloween activities, parade activities, just our normal activities. So you will see that it continues to trend up, that site. So here's one that we found interesting and I really appreciate. So the work that we're doing on education is really helping. So what we did is we took the FM3 survey to see where that was at. So if you look at it, FM3, when we had this information, what they said is yes, 37% at that point in time said, yes, I will definitely vote for this. So that number has gone from 37 up to 47. That's a 10% change, which is a huge change in about a 2.5 month period. The number of no's has gone from 35% down to 19%. And like I said, the undecided is it went from 28, and that's gone a little higher, which tells me that some of the no's have now gone to the undecided. So again, that to me has been a huge change with doing some of the marketing push that we've done and actually having conversations with people of like, what does this really look like? So again, that to me is a huge change from where we are at. So the other things that we ask people is programs or activities, what would you use the multi-use gymnasium for? And we ask people to select all that would apply. So the number counts on here are actually going to be, you're going to see them all over the place. But what was interesting to me is that community events and gatherings, all of these are high, adult fitness and wellness classes, indoor walking. The other thing that, as we've had this conversation is the emergency and evac center. So having some of these conversations, one of the things that people have been telling us is, with all the fires and everything, we have been a site that people use, and that still is important to them. So they know that this site can actually act and help as one of those locations, should that be needed. You'll also notice that above the 50% are senior active programs, which and then adult sports and youth sports and leagues. So you can all see all of those are trending above 50%, which again is a good place to be as we're having these conversations. So then we asked respondents to rate satisfaction and adequacy of PVRPD parks, programs, facilities, and the average is 3.6 out of 5. What we noticed in the feedback was the following amenities were scoring lower, which isn't uncommon, which is if you look at the classrooms, the community, adult programs, senior center, and freedom center. And a lot of that was either don't have the capacity Or the other thing that we are starting to see to trend on that is some of the buildings are old. So again, those things, when you look at the multi-use gymnasium, can help address some of those deficits or where people are not feeling quite as satisfied because there's not room, space, or something new. So some of the widespread feedback that we were receiving and themes that we saw, because we always ask, are there other things? And you get 1,000 things from, hey, it'd be really nice to have a ice skating rink, or but the themes that we saw, as you can see, is the lack of indoor space. So basketball, volleyball, futsal, badminton, pickleball, all of those things started to rise up to say, we just don't have enough space. The other thing that we saw is people that, and really we did have somebody that said, I would pay for access to a community rec center just to play pickup. And a lot of that is just having a place to go. And right now it's limited. Again, questions that we would be asked, well, why don't you use the schools? And the answer is we do. The challenge is the schools only have 2 gymnasiums. And even with the agreements that we have with the schools, if they have sports, excuse me, that go till 5 or 6 o'clock, we can't start programming until that time. So you have limited space and time of what we can even do. And I'm guessing that most kids or parents don't want their kids up at 10 o'clock or 10 p.m. to go to some practice or be able to participate. So it's not that we don't have them, it's just we have limited use of some of those facilities. So desire for flexible multi-use spaces, as you can see, demand for indoor, especially as we head into the not so good weather. I try not to say winds, the Santa Anas, but it also includes like open play and spaces that people can actually use. Residents have been going elsewhere. So a couple of things that we found out is that we do have people that live here in the community, but will go to Ventura to participate or go up the hill because we don't have the space. So again, what we're seeing is people are probably going outside of our community to use these spaces. So 90% of the respondents believe PVRPD is very effective and somewhat effective of reaching them with information. So these are all the different streams. And again, what this tells us is it's fairly even across all of those, but it helps us moving forward if we're trying to reach people, get more information into their hands. It's like, how do we go about that? So that was a piece that we had added on because we wanted to know where they were hearing from, how and in what formats, and what they wanted to hear it from. So we had this conversation with the liaison committee 2 weeks ago. So again, I think has it been that long? Okay. I don't know, they fly by. So there's a couple things. One of the things that we wanted to have the conversation with, are both agencies willing to move the project forward knowing that we're going to a phased approach? I know the board had said the last time, yes, we want to move this forward. The first phase, we want to be the multi-use gymnasium. The second thing is hiring an architect, because one of the questions we get is, well, if you go back and look at the original design, that design isn't going to look like that design. We also talked about, with that design, looking at a potential of for lack of better terms, but a pop-up steel building. We know that the city of Camarillo has very specific designs and what they will approve. So part of the conversation with the liaison is, if we went down this direction, knowing that we could potentially save money, knowing that it could go up faster than a building from bottom up, is that something they're still willing to look at? And the answer to that is yes. So with that, it's also looking at continuing to market, raise awareness. More than half of the residents, I don't even think realize what the current facility capacity are. I think the other trend, or the other thing we were hearing, is people don't know where we get our funds, and they don't know how tight our budget is. So really from the marketing plan and moving that forward is continuing a couple things. Is one, what this new building potentially looks like. Two, how do we educate people where we get our funds, how we use our funds. The other thing is why those things are really important. And then the other thing is what goes in that facility. And again, those four themes become important as we move forward with this project to make sure everybody's on the same page. And I think that was one of the keys that I heard from the board last time is like, what are we telling people this is going to look like? What is going to be in there? And how do we move this project forward? So, and I think I've shown the board this before, but this is a steel structure, strong, resilient, wind shear, adaptive, customizable design. Obviously takes a lot less time. With a building like this, there's different things you can design on the outside. You can make that look a little better. The inside, if you're looking for the inside at some point is industrial. When it's a pop-up or when it's a steel building, it's going to be like that. But there are design elements that you can add to these buildings. So, with that being said, one of the things we're looking at is like, what does this look like for timeline? Because I think that's the other piece is if we're going to move this forward, what does that look like? So we would continue. So there's a couple things is tonight, if we're still moving down that track and everybody's good with that, one of the things that I'm going to ask you to do is if we want to go down that track, is that we would hire LPA, who were the people that did the original one. They have worked with organizations that have done pop-up steel buildings. One of them is actually in Mission Viejo down south, and you can't tell that it's a pop-up. The other thing would be is because people are going to want to see what this looks like to some degree. So we're going to have some design. The idea would be is that we look at an agreement not to exceed 50,000. They would have to come up with something in the next, I think, Justin, remind me, making sure I'm not incorrect, within the next month to 2 months, that they'd be able to come back and have at least a rough design of what that looks like. And the idea would be is that we'd want the square footage of what it would look like to put 2 gymnasiums in there, what it would look like to have a bathroom and at least a front area for customer service. So we're not asking for all the extra bells and whistles, but we need those measurements so we know what this looks like, what people know that it looks like. So looking at that, then continuing with the marketing side of it, we'd want to do another statistically valid survey in April and May. And the reason we would do that is we'd go back out and say, okay, is this something that we can get past? So if it comes back and we can, because remember, we need 66% of the voters to say yes. If we have 50%, it doesn't go anywhere. So if that comes back, then the board would go to the approval and approve it, and it has to have a 4/5 vote. That would be on the board agenda for June or July. It has to go to the clerk July, no later than August, and then it goes on the ballot for November. So that's the timeline with that. I know that it seems like a long time, but it's really not when you stop and think about it as we're continuing to do the education out there with the public and trying to get everybody on the same page. So with that, oops, that must be the last one. Thought there was one more slide. Nope, I lied. Last slide. So I'd be happy to answer any questions and go from there. Or if Chair Dransfeld has anything to add, being that you were on the liaison.
The one thing that, thinking about the design architect and hiring LPA, which I can't remember if we got a clear answer from council, was if they are okay to split that cost.
Split what?
To split the cost of,
Gs?
mhm,
Good idea.
for doing, well, basically, because the entire, actions now we're
Well,
splitting.
they're looking to get a pump station built. I'm sure they probably do it.
I can't remember if that was brought up during the meeting or was
It
something.
was not.
Okay.
If we're going, so just timeline-wise, we
Yeah.
can go back and ask, but that would have to
That's-
go
yeah.
between them. That would have to go there, so you're looking
They
2
can always
months.
pay us back.
Huh?
We can spend it and they can always pay it back.
True.
Just something to note for the next meeting.
I have some questions.
Go ahead, Director Kelly.
I saw every group that I could, more than I could even imagine, that wanted to be all of the things that were listed on the page. That's just not going to happen. It just isn't.
What?
We can't promise all those things to all those people.
So which,
That page where you have listed walking paths and all, I mean,
so this page,
wellness classes and all of that stuff. That you're not going to program all of that stuff in a 7-day week. You're just not.
so I think, so with, okay. So when you think about, when I think of a gymnasium and a multi-use gymnasium, there is time that you're going to have peak hours, right? Just like anything. But there are hours when, and this is part of it, is like if I look at a gymnasium and it's open at 8, let's just say 8 a.m. to 9 p.m., right? There are times in the morning that you could actually have a group of walkers that are walking around the outside of the gym, on the inside, around the outside of the court. You could have that going.
do that.
Right. So you could have that going on. That doesn't mean it's going to be every day at 8. I think the other thing is you can have adult fitness or wellness classes in there. It may not be, again, every day. So I think a lot of the stuff that's in there, we'll be able to address at some point in time. If the thought is we're going to be able to do those every single day of every day, you're right, that is a huge misnomer. But there are things within those areas that we will be able to do throughout a 6-7 day period.
Well, here's the way I kind of imagine it without thinking about it a lot. From about 4 to 6 or 4 to 6:30, you will probably have youth sports leagues. They'll pay to rent the gymnasium, and we'll recover costs. I mean, it just works. That's the way it happens, especially at a brand new place. And then the adults will come in, either volleyball or basketball, and they'll play till 10 or 11 o'clock. And so there'll be times like where you have maybe volleyball or something, but the other kinds of things are, I see that particular time group, I don't really see how you're going to fit everybody's needs in, and I just don't see it. Because you're probably not going to play on Sunday nights,
Right.
okay?
So I think this is called sharing, which is really hard for people.
No, this is called getting people to vote for what we need them to vote for.
Well, I get that. But I would say that with all due respect, at 9 o'clock in the morning, there's like, we may have a senior.
I'm not concerned about 9 o'clock in the morning.
I know, but there's a lot of things that can happen at different times of the day. Like one of the things we have to temper is like there's a very strong volleyball group here that literally plays outside right now. And they actually attended and they're like, do you know what a game changer that would be? But part of that is tempering, just like with anybody else. Just because we have this gym does not mean that this is going to be your sole source of practice. Like I cannot commit to just volleyball saying this is going to be yours from 4 to 6 every single day. Nor could you say to the Camarillo Basketball Association this is carte blanche yours. So part of this is, and remember, we still have the gymnasium. Like just because we have this does not mean that we will not be using Monte Vista. So all of this gives us another avenue.
This is going to be overloaded the day that it opens. Just like the soccer fields, they were overloaded the day it opened, and the city thought that was going to solve the problems for the next 100 years, and it was already maxed out on the very day it opened.
It will provide relief. It is not going to solve it's not going to solve everybody's problem. It will provide relief and be able to provide more programming than what we're able to do right now. But if the thought is this is going to be the end all be all, you're absolutely right, which is why we're trying to temper, like, yes, there's a lot of these things that can happen. Like even having a conversation with pickleball, it's like, well, how many courts can I put in there?
Well, first of all, pickleball is going to have its own place. So that's where pickleball will be. I do not intend to put pickleball in the gymnasium and have them fight the other groups for time to play. That we're spending money and putting in a pickleball facility. It's just doesn't make sense because you're never going to get people to get behind this if they think they're going to get 2 hours one day a week or something because everybody's fighting over the space.
And to be honest, I would say, it is a gymnasium that will end up, we will be flexible with it. And I don't think any groups will necessarily be excluded, including pickleball.
Will there be CSOs? New CSOs for this?
I don't know the answer to that because that answer comes back to the board. So if, let's say, volleyball wants to be a CSO, they'd have to go through the proper channels to do that. Could they? Potentially. But I don't have that answer at this moment.
And an important thing to note, too, that Mary has pointed out to me before with CSOs is that it's youth-focused. So all our CSOs are youth-focused.
Mm-hmm. Like CYBA or Lava or Camarillo volleyball or whatever, yeah.
I know this. Youth sports is an $80 to $85 billion deal a year. It's become one of the biggest growing things in the economy. Not that it's the biggest, it's not, but it is one of the fastest growing. Each generation of people who come into the system, whose parents played before them, and it's changing that group as a whole, and they're changing their ways and how they spend their money. I think that I think at least as equal to, we should tell people what we're going to do. That's what I think.
And that ends up being such a key element that we're finding just with those survey results. If we're able to provide them more of that, of clarity, the more people we can get, on board with it.
I think because I deal with the youth sports, as you know, and I know what they've told me. And an indoor gymnasium complex is probably one of the, you'd be surprised how many people have children that play not just one sport,
Yeah.
but two or three, and they play them no longer recreational style, but club style and competitive style. My own granddaughter, two of them play soccer and water polo. It's the way that it's going now. It's everything has changed. And those are going to be the people, a lot of them, who are going to be voting on something that we're going to do. And it's a large group. I'm not saying it's the biggest group. I really don't know that. But I know one thing. I know when I talk to them what they tell me. And if we don't pay attention to that, I don't think it's going to happen. And so I think we can't promise everybody's going to get a piece of the pie because it's too small. 2 basketball courts is a very small space. It's like nothing. And the fact that we don't get Camarillo High to open their gymnasium for youth sports, most cities, when I coached basketball last year, I went to Santa Clara and played there with the kids from St. Mary's and coached them. And everybody else, Wainimi High, all open their gymnasiums. Camarillo is the only place that doesn't do it.
Do we know why that is?
I don't. I know that, previous discussions, whether it has to do with soccer fields, track, or whatever, they're usually being used by their sports teams, and they have first priority. So that's usually where the conversation goes. But
Yeah.
When I talked to the guys in Oxnard School District, it's been a few years. I got to know him after a while, after he told me no a couple of times. I kept calling back, and he said that generally, at least football fields and especially the gymnasium are the wishes of the coach, the varsity coach, that's where the decision gets made. And so I'm not trying to climb on them. I'm just saying that it contributes to the overall lack. We have zero in Camarillo right now availability, except for the junior highs, which have pretty small gyms. I don't know. I see it as overwhelming. And then when I see something like this, where we're promising so much stuff to such a diverse set of people.
I think it's an important distinction to know that it's not what's been promised, it's what's being asked from the community based off the survey results. And that's such a small portion.
No, I agree with you there. That's an important point. But when it gets out and distributed to everybody out there, this is going to be what gets distributed.
Director Fernandez.
The tax, the voting, is that just for phase? Is that going to cover phase 1? Or are we going to have to do this again for phase 2, 3, 4, 5, 6?
So part of this is, as we have this conversation, is that, if we get the CFD and if it's $20 to $30, or 30 to 40, sorry. If it's 30 to 40, the hope would be is when we pay off the first phase that we'd have money to start the second phase. That's, and as I've been very honest with people, I was like, we may not be able to do a second phase for 15, 20 years. We may be able to do a phase sooner. I was like, I'm not going to make you that promise until there's money to be able to do it. And I said, because the other thing, and this is, again, why this is important, is being able to make sure that we can maintain it and staff it are very important. Because if you can build it, but we can't do those other things, then that becomes a problem, which is why we're looking at this and really talking to people about phases. I was like, it could end up in a 7-phase. It could end up in 7 phases. I don't know. But what we want to do is start with this initial phase and get this moving, knowing that the gymnasium is the biggest piece of what we've been talking about and where kind of the active part of the community is missing.
I think that you hit on it before. I think we have to have a model of what it's going to look like. I think that's going to sell it more than, it'd be like going in a car dealership and they're trying to sell you a car they don't have. So we need to decide what it's going to look like. And then I think, to me, you're going to have to get the sports groups to contribute more into getting hold of people. They have email lists that are thousands of people, and you have to put all of that together. The email program that I've been getting a lot, so it's working. But I think that you got to get the people that are gonna want this, not just random people, which helps, but it's not as important.
Staff at Mustang Marketing and they reached out to every CSO group, various other stakeholders with the Rotary and whatnot, just in this phase. So being
I
able
asked
to
my
build
wife,
on
and she
that.
didn't get anything from anybody.
She should have gotten something from me, because we initially
I
did.
personally told her to to get on our email list and send everybody a questionnaire and all of that.
And,
I
and
also
that's,
personally made sure that she would be on that list too.
Pardon?
I said I personally made sure that, everyone was reached out to, so including, the president of each
Maybe a
org.
meeting of all of the groups would have been helpful. Maybe, I know everybody's busy, but I think that might help.
well, and that can, and again, I think the initial push was to get the information out to as many people in different platforms as possible. So as part of this, it was getting out into the community, it was sending out the survey. I know that Mustang Marketing did send an initial email out to the CSOs. I can tell you I sent a follow-on because I know what happens too, is people are like, they get so much mail that they just don't pay attention. So I sent a follow-up one probably about a week and a half later, just to make sure, because I know CSOs probably have my email address. They probably, when they're looking at from somebody else, it's like, oh, click, delete, whatever. So, but if there's areas, again, if there's areas that we can touch on or, places that we need to be or talk to or groups or whatever, those are more than willing to go out and have those conversations with people in whichever way we need to. If it's jumping on a Zoom because people don't have the time, which is why we've done a couple of Zooms, we've done in person. So we'll continue to go down that. We'll continue to go down that route, especially as we continue on the marketing side.
And I think the CSOs today might be less valuable than the CSOs of tomorrow that this could open up. So like Pony Baseball, ASO, soccer clubs, whatever, they don't have a whole lot of value in a basketball court, right? We don't have a CSO that would be like a volleyball club or a basketball club. That doesn't exist yet. So I think if you can win those groups over, they have 500 parents, 1,000 kids, thousands of parents. Like that's a big voter block.
We actually had in one of the meetings, and I don't recall his name right now, but somebody that is a huge volleyball, is huge in the volleyball community. And he came to this meeting specifically for that because he knows like they rent the community center. So on Wednesdays, if you drive by there, you'll notice there's probably a couple hundred kids. So they rent on Wednesdays and Saturdays, correct, Karen? Okay.
Is that rec or is that club?
It's beginners, but they do have multiple levels. But what they're doing, because they're not going to have probably some of your more elite athletes playing out there on grass, right? So a lot of it is the education, getting them involved. But I can tell you there's probably 200-300 kids every Wednesday and then Saturday as well that are playing because they don't have any other place to go. He and I actually had a very lengthy conversation regarding that. And him being able to get the word out and was willing to do that. We actually talked about like looking at grants. And so like one of the conversations we've had is that some of the grants come by the way of evac sites. So is there a way that we can tie those two together that, in the case of a need, that you have that center is that, and that tends to happen with us anyway, whether it's out at Freedom, the community center, or whatever. So,
well, it's a different gig because if we build this the way I anticipate it will be built, you can't have the floor destroyed by guys. You just can't. That'll be thousands and thousands of dollars of. It's hard to repair. You have to almost do the whole thing in order to repair it.
Yeah, well, anymore with the stuff that you can put down. There's tarps and all of that kind of stuff that you can put down, and but point taken. So, so that's so yes, I agree. I think that's what we're trying to do is reach some of those groups that maybe we haven't reached before, or having conversations with some of those that, have no idea kind of what this actually is. Because we've seen people all over the board. We've had conversations with volleyball. We've had some conversations with basketball. We've had conversations with seniors or more active seniors that's like they want a place to go. So I understand everybody's concern, but like when you start programming it out, you're not going to program kids at 9 o'clock in the morning, which allows some of those other activities to be able to happen. The challenge is when everybody wants it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
Just like in pickleball, we had that, remember that argument we had in here with everybody came in and they thought that open play, they had to have it at 4 to 6. You guys were doing that. And I was listening thinking, gosh, there's no way to solve it because you can't get any more time.
Well, and right. So and that's what I'm saying is like a gymnasium, and I think you could probably say the same thing for any sports field, right? Like there's never going to be enough time between the hours of 4 and 6 if everybody wants to play every single day at those times. So it is somewhat of a divide and conquer, and making sure that we can support the people that and the organizations that we have without saying you're the only one that gets to use it. And that's that fine line as we're trying to work through this of like what it is. I think the biggest thing that we've been able to communicate to people is it is a multi-use gymnasium. Not a gym, it's not a multi-generational center. It is for all ages, but really what we're looking at is a multi-use gymnasium. And I think that's been the biggest advocate that we've been able, or biggest piece that we've been able to tell people. So when you're asking some of those questions, don't expect a tech room in here. That doesn't mean that, that's not something we can look at in one of the classrooms, but you're not gonna have a tech room in a multi-use gymnasium. So those things we're trying to be clear about.
Well, what's a collaborative space? I think that was listed. I don't know if it was an ask or if that's what was a proposal, but what is a collaborative space?
So I think some of the times what people are wanting is places, so you can do multiple things in some of those spaces. Or like if we're doing special events, or if like on a Friday night, let's say, Friday nights don't tend to be typical highlight or nights that people want to play basketball. Usually it's like, or whatever sport. So those could be spaces where, maybe you're doing team programming in there, or you're doing some other type of activity that you don't typically do, or it's some of those shoulder times that you're being able to use. So that's what I kind of look at when we talk about collaborative spaces, or sometimes when you're like with some of the buildings where they have the roll-up doors, like you could be able to do something outside and inside because you have some natural spaces and uses.
Director Fernandez, I really liked what you said, looking at the CSOs of tomorrow. And I think it also ties back to what Director Kelly was saying in terms of kids are playing so many different sports. So hopefully touching the current CSOs, if they're involved in volleyball and doing soccer, we're able to connect with them to help build those future CSOs.
You need to get them to help. That's what you need to do. For instance, I don't stay in contact with this type of information that much anymore, but the Eagles routinely has 600 to 650 kids. That's generally 1,000 to 1,200 parents. And every year that is reproduced. Some of them stay and play out, but there's new parents, probably hundreds of them every single year. And I know that Pony has more than that. If you really got them to commit to it, and that, of course, the first thing they ask me, well, what are we going to use it for? That's what they want to know. Are their kids going to be benefiting from it? So I see it could happen. I do, but you have to get those people to commit. ASO's another one. They've got thousands and thousands of kids over, and you don't just look at the ones you have now. You look at the ones you had the year before and the year before that. A lot of them age out. I mean, if you could get all of their databases, geez, you might be able to swing it with just voting, for like you wanted to, we were talked about voting for bonds and other various things. I think that's what you have to do. You have to, the people that would have a stake in it are the people you have to get to help.
Of course. Director Schlingen, did you have any comments?
I guess the only thing I wanted to add is when you're continuing to go on out and educate the community about this, you had mentioned letting them know how we make our funds. I think another thing that we should add is just that we are a separate entity from the city. Because I think a lot of people are confused or believe that the parks are being done by the city, and denoting that we are a separate entity with separate cash would probably help them in their decision to support us in this multi-use gymnasium. So if you could add that,
They
I'd
have it
appreciate
already. I've seen some ads that have a discussion in that.
Yeah, that's been part of the information that we've had, because one of the questions I'll ask is, do you know where we get our funding? And so it's like, oh, you're part of the city. And I was like, it's interesting that you have that conversation. And I was like, because we're not part of the city. And then we have the conversation of, okay, where do you get your money? And then we have that conversation. But one of the things, again, that we're working on is, it's not only that, but, and we all hear it. Like when you hear, it's like, I pay taxes, right? So when you look at your here's just a really quick, like when you look at your tax line, when you look at your property tax, what you're paying us is above the tax line. And so when people are, your property tax. And so when people look at that, it's like, well, all my money's going to you. So if you pay $7,000 in property tax, $7,000 doesn't go to the district. Number one, it's split up between about 19 different taxing entities within Camarillo that you're doing that. And then when you look at that, the most that we get is, correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, but like 0.04% of what that looks like. So literally on a, $700,000 home, and that's what you purchased at. That's not what it's worth, because you're only paying taxes on what you purchased it for, is maybe $300 goes to the district. So it really is having that conversation, because most people think that all of when they say, and it's funny because when you have that conversation, it's like, well, that $7,000 goes to every entity. And it's like, well, no, that's got to be split. So it's really educating people on some of those. And it's interesting when you have that conversation, they're like, oh, I didn't realize. And so I think that's us having more of the conversation and having that lined out of what that really looks like and where their dollars do go. So.
And I think that one of the easiest things and biggest misconceptions, not only just the differentiation of being a city, is we get no cents from any sales tax. Nothing. And and I think people are like, no, that's not true. But to the point where I've had to ask, I was like, am I crazy? Like, we don't get anything from sales tax, right? And so, and I think, and I hate saying this, but it was one of the staff members in finance here at the city that couldn't even confirm that. I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right. So, yes, so that's, that's what we're up against, and all of this is providing that clarity. But Mary, do you have enough direction? Do you need?
Well, what I would like tonight, I have the direction of, where we're headed. I think the big thing is whether I can get the board to,
do you need a motion for the
a
50,000?
motion to be able to do a $50,000 drawdown so we can work with LPA. So that way what we can do is get in or work on the schematic on what this is going to look like. That would come back to the board for approval. So it's not just like, hey, here it is and we're off and running. But we're going to need something that the community can actually see and the board can get on board with.
Which goes exactly to what you're looking for, Director Kelly.
What?
It goes to exactly what you're looking for, to be able to present what does this look like.
But there's, you keep saying,
LPA.
yeah? Where have I heard that before?
So LPA helped us with with the design. They did not do all the other work. That was Greenplay. LPA only has helped us on the design
Who
of the last
produced that
bidding.
report?
That was not LPA.
Okay.
Which is where that was Greenplay. Greenplay did the report. LPA has only helped us on the architectural design.
Yeah, they were flexible. They were okay.
Okay. So I would need a motion to be able to do a $50,000 drawdown from capital.
I think it should include what Director Dransfeld said, that we should ask the city to pay for half of it.
We can, but know that if we're going to do that, it may be months.
Well, I don't care how long I have to wait for 25 grand.
Can we make the motion to do the 50,000 with the request of,
I mean, they may say no, so.
but still moving ahead
Yeah.
with it, correct?
Okay.
Okay, great.
Okay.
I think
Yep.
that was what Mary wanted clarity on.
Okay, yeah. Okay, then I would need that motion.
Can that be done in a so move?
I think so. I think we've.
As long as the notes are
Karen,
good.
do you have so the motion would be to do a $50,000 drawdown from
50,000
capital
Drawdown from capital
and request the city to
match,
Reimburse.
for half of the cost.
and this is with the LPA.
Now, exactly what are they gonna do?
So what they would be able to do is look at, in order to get the 18,000 square foot, so we would ask them, whatever that looks like, approximately.
18,000 square feet. How big is the perimeter if you've got 18,000?
So 18,000, when you look at here. Should be,
How big is the auditorium? Math.
so when you look at this one, so this is a multi-use, so for this part of the gymnasium, which is two courts, and this space is about 16,000.
How long is it?
I-
How big are the courts? I want to know how much.
Well, we had talked about being high school size, which was,
That's too small, I think. It would work, but
We're looking at,
be about
this
20.
is part of working with LPA, but the prefabs typically come in 100 by 100. So 100 square feet by 100, well, 100 feet by 100 feet, which is 10,000 square feet. And so not doing two of those because that'd be 20,000 square foot, but kind of some kind of a version of that. So you're really looking at maybe 200 by 80 or something around there. So, I mean, this is why we want to get LPA involved so we can actually start framing out what it looks like. So something about 200 foot long or wide by 80 foot long or wide.
because this is also going to help us.
a basketball court is like, what, 52 feet wide?
The high school ones are typically 52 by 80, I want to say, and then a college
92.
is about 90
92,
by
right.
60. So where we're trying to do the prefab for the cost savings, and the 100 by 100 is like their biggest prefab. So when you're looking at like the 90-foot basketball court, you're looking at 5 feet on each side, which might be a bit tough squeeze for a border around a basketball court, which is where we've kind of edited at the high school court.
What kind of floor are we looking at?
So this is why working with LPA to do the design, because these are all the things in order to get, so there's a couple of things that happen with this as part of the design. Is one, if, we're looking at 2 gymnasiums, we're looking at a locker room and only a dry locker room, not looking at having showers and all that. But we still need storage and then having customer service.
And you need a bathroom, right?
Well, that's the dry locker. They're bathrooms, they're just not showers. So when you talk about a dry, so sorry for that clarification. So what they'll be able to do is then we'll get an idea what that looks like, what the square footage is. We'll have a better idea what the cost is, which is why we're telling people about $30 to $40. Because depending on if we have to, instead of 19,000 square feet, we need 20, like that's going to fluctuate. That's why getting this designed so they have an idea. The other thing is when we go to the public for the, when we put this on the board agenda to be approved, we have to have all those specifics. So it's got to have what it is, it's got to have the money amount and all of those. And the only way to get there is to at least start with this design, so we know where we're headed.
I'll tell you what my concern is. My concern is we don't end up with a same situation. None of us participated in it, but is the pool. Where we don't have a standard size pool where like even high school size.
Understand that.
It's like,
Well, and this will come back along the way. So, I mean, this isn't going to be, okay, we're going to approve it and we're going to run from there. What we need to do is get this, bring it back before the board so we can have discussions. So if there's something that's off, then we can have those conversations. We could also start talking like what pricing looks like, so we can start telling the public, instead of 30 to 40, if it's going to be 45 to 50, I want to be honest with the public, because the last thing we want to say is it's 30 and then it ends up 60 and people are really mad. So this will help us get and more define what that looks like as it's getting built out, as we're working through that.
I think having those numbers too will be important if it's not just design, but like the CSO conversations, but even looking at the storage closet in the middle, if you turn that into a snack shack, that could be a revenue stream that you can draw out revenue from. So Justin is great at numbers. I'm not saying Justin should do the numbers, but if he comes up with a projection of revenue, different streams, that could help have a more solid number for the public.
there's no money in snack.
No money in snack shack.
Okay, so we have a motion from Director Schlangen. I'll go ahead and second it.
Director Schlangen,
Yes.
Chair Dransfeld,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Fernandez,
Yes.
4-0.
Thank you. All right, on to oral communication, informational items that do not require action. So we'll start off with the chair report. For meetings attended, September 3rd, our board meeting, September 6th, ASO's 60th anniversary celebration, September 8th, pickleball ad hoc, September 15th, Healthy Camarillo RFP interviews, September 17th, met for finance, and afterwards to chair with Mary, and we also discussed, since Director Magner was there, preparing for pickleball and the multi-use gymnasium presentation. September 18th, attended the cause fundraiser and the AWA reception. September 19th, multi-use gymnasium ad hoc. September 20th, the food share fundraiser Fed Up. September 21st, AAUW's kickoff meeting and the Art Bash. September 24th, Camarillo City Council. September 25th, pickleball ad hoc. September 26th, met with Mary and Director Magner to discuss the meeting prior's pickleball meeting. September 27th, the 50 Plus Expo, and I finally got to use the charger for the EV chargers. And September 30th, the Ventura County Board of Supervisors meeting for the Truth Act Forum. I just wanted to say that I am so sad to say goodbye to another wonderful staff member, Jennifer Strain. I am forever grateful for the massive impact that you've made on the district, even in the short amount of time that you've been here. Our whole community is better because of you. The solar project and EV charging stations wouldn't have happened without your time and dedication. So I wish you the best of luck in your new endeavor. I'm so excited for you. And just thank you again to all staff for all the wonderful events. I had a lot of fun at the 50 Plus Expo. I brought my littles with me too, and my daughter, we went and saw the art gallery, and so she was able to talk to the artists, and it was a really cool experience. There's some amazing art there, so I definitely encourage folks to check that out. Moving on to the Ventura County CSDA. Director Magner is not present, and then Director Schlangen, we haven't had a meeting, so we'll move on to the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, where our September meeting was actually canceled, so tentatively the next meeting will be on Monday, October 20th at 6:30 at King Gillette Ranch in Calabasas, and the public may participate via Zoom. For standing committees for finance, the last meeting was held on September 17th, and we covered the August financials. The next meeting will take place on Wednesday, October 15th at 3 p.m. in the conference room. As of September 12th, 2025, the total cash report was $22.7 million. It's the wrong page. The year prior was $20.7 million. Restricted was $9.3 million. Semi-restricted, $7,175,235.71. Unrestricted was $6 million, $198,432.90. And in comparison to the year prior, the cash report balance is up by close to $2 million more than last year. Our investment rates for August 2025 stayed the same in class. Actually went down 0.02% in class. Ventura County Pool went down 0.02%, and LAIF went down 0.01%. And then we will move on to, oh my goodness, these are all me. Ad hoc committees. So we had pickleball, and we had workshops on September 8th and September 25th. As I mentioned, we went through the presentations before the meetings, and afterwards we also discussed next steps. There's a lot of conversation going on in pickleball and just how we can improve. And then for our liaison meetings, where there was Healthy Camarillo, we met with 2 of the finalists for the RFPs. That was on September 15th at City Hall. And same for the multi-use gymnasium was here at City Hall. And on that committee is Mayor Kildee and City Council Member Tremblay. So we did the same presentation that we just went through and discussed our next steps and what they wanted to see. So for item F, we'll go to foundation.
All right, thank you, Chair Dransfield. The foundation is having a dine-in fundraiser tonight at Presto Pasta. You probably got about 10 minutes left if you want to go get something to eat, but I did want to thank everyone that has helped with our dine-ins throughout the year, and we have more coming, so keep a lookout for them. Correct me, I believe this Friday, October 3rd, is a bingo bash that's going to be held here at the community center from 6 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and doors open at 4:30 and sales close at 5:30. So if you're into bingo, that's a great place to go and enjoy that. The foundation is having a huge event in October of 2026. So next year, and it's going to be an amazing race. So look out for more information in the coming months about that. And the foundation will have the next meeting on Wednesday, October 8th at 5:30 at the community center. So if you want to join us, that is again on Wednesday, October 8th. Thank you.
Thank you. General Manager's report.
Okay, should be fairly quick. I think Ileana went through all of the events for October, so just a reminder, a lot of things going on almost every week. Parks projects, Springville tennis courts / pickleball courts, they are closed right now as they're being redone. I believe the reopen date is October 10th. Springville Dog Park parking lot and the dog park will be closed October 7th through the 9th for the slurry seal and some minor turf mitigation while the parking lot is closed. Freedom Pickleball, we're continuing to work with Jay and Paul and move that project forward, so we're making progress there. The snack bar, so the Freedom Restroom Snack Bar, that project, city has done their initial review, and now it's sitting with County Health, because County Health, for the environmental on the snack bar, they have to review, so I think that's about a 20-day review, so we're waiting on them. And then a project that will be happening at the end of December, and the reason I'm bringing up now is because we will be doing a closure at the pool, so we'll be adding motors to the 2 roll-up doors over there that do not have motors. So that's slated for December 22nd. The goal is to open it by the January 5th, but being that we have holidays in there, it might last a little bit longer. We are still, unfortunately, waiting for Ventura County on the feasibility study for the bike route. So we have not heard, I know we keep asking, but we have not heard anything there. We are currently working and making progress with Ventura County on the Las Posas Trail and have a path forward. So they sent over the agreement. We're working through that. So hopefully in the next couple months, we can actually finally say we have that project done. We're working with one of the constituents up there regarding easements, so we're starting that conversation. So that's moving forward. EV charging stations, somebody had asked about this. So for the month of September, we had a little over $1,600 in revenue. There were 74 unique drivers, 220 sessions. The community center saw 63 visitors. Freedom was 65, and PV Field saw 92 different sessions. So people are using them.
How much money did we make?
About 1,600.
For everybody, for everyone?
Yeah, for the month.
How much did it cost us?
I don't have that number. I will bring that number and get that to you. But so just a tidbit of information. So Jennifer, before she left, thought she would give me some good information on that. So for the lifetime that there was 4,113 kilogram of greenhouse gas emission savings, which is the equivalent to planting 105 trees. So, which is a good thing, right?
I guess so.
Just for
All
the
right.
1 month?
Yep. So, all right. Personnel meeting, just upcoming meetings. Reminder, personnel next week on the 8th at 3.
I haven't gotten anything on it. I had a cancellation.
A cancellation from this week or last week that we moved, and then,
haven't
okay,
gotten
I'll make sure you, all right, I'll make sure that you get that. Foundation board meeting, as Director Schlangen had talked about, long-range planning next week on October 9th, and then finance on October 15th. A reminder for anybody that has RSVP'd, the State of the City is on October 23rd. If anybody else that is not, let me know if you want to let me know tonight. That's October 23rd. The time is different. So they're doing it from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. and the location is out at the Air Force Museum. So that's all I have for today.
I'm not sure if you got an update on this. Rancho timeline?
I don't. I was supposed to have a meeting Monday, and the person I was supposed to be meeting with was sick. I should have an update tomorrow, and once I have that, I will send it out to everybody.
Okay, thank you. Board members, Director Schlangen?
Thank you very much. I just had one question, and sorry for being a broken record, but Justin, any update on the solar refund? I know you have submitted the paperwork. Do we have a date on when we're going to hear back on that?
We haven't submitted the paperwork. We need the permission to operate for the 3 locations. We've got 2 of them. We're just about a week or 2 away from the 3rd, and then we'll submit the paperwork at that point.
Is that for the grant?
Yeah.
And we have the battery?
It's coming.
Okay. Director Fernandez?
Just thank you. Thank you in general. Thank you for everything. It's been a late night, so I don't want to stand between you and getting home and having dinner or whatever's next week, but thank you for everything.
Director Kelly?
I don't have anything tonight. I've said enough.
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for your patience, and have a wonderful night. We're adjourned. Did you do it? Do it again in time?
Another